Gonna change the screen soon. We don't got time for an intro. We gotta start this.
Oh,
Sorry.
hey, what's up?
Sorry, I was talking to you, but my microphone was muted, so my stream was reacting to what I was saying. But
Okay, let me set this up.
So anyway, like my field of fucks, right? I make sure to spray it down with Brondo because Brondo has what plants crave. It has electrolytes.
Good point.
Based.
Okay, Dylan and Haz are both here. Okay, cool. So we're just waiting on Maddie.
Just waiting on Mads. Yeah. And then I'll jump out. Hope everyone has a wonderful evening. I'm going to sit back and enjoy.
Absolutely.
happens?
Oh, I got it. You're just a shit stirrer. Got it.
I don't know what you mean.
You're the shit stirrer. So make sure you go wash your hands after this because you have your hands deep in this shit tonight.
Dirty, dirty boy.
Listen, right. I love each and every one of you, and just have a good show.
We just met. You already loving me? Whew.
Oh yeah, you're one of my favorites already. The drawing on stream thing, yeah, just tickles me the right way.
There's been a whole
Appreciate
to
art.
it.
Come on, Maddie.
Well,
I need to give.
for those of us that have been around a while, we're already used to waiting on a woman.
Wow.
I knew that was coming. I knew it. I was waiting.
Hey,
It's true.
well, I mean, there's truth.
My wife's sitting in the same room laughing right now because she knows it's fucking true, right? Anybody want to fight with her? Didn't think.
Absolutely not. I don't.
Got my snacks. All right. No, I'm going to jump out. Have a good night, everyone. And I'll make sure Maddie joins in a sec. All right.
All right. Have fun.
Peace.
Should we wait for Maddie? Dan?
I mean, you might as well start opening and intros and everything. Maddie will jump in.
Okay.
Have a good one.
How's it going, Haz, by the way? Is it Haz or Haz?
Haj.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I guess we'll get started. Let me get my notes real quick. All right. Welcome, everybody. Another edition of the Hippy Dippy Super Sunday. It's July 18th, 2021, Vin Diesel's birthday. Make sure you say happy birthday to Vin Diesel. I am your host and moderator, Binks. I'm sure we've got a lot of the new viewers today. So we've got some great panelists. You're probably thinking, hey, who's Binks? Nobody. I'm literally nobody. I'm friends with Danabo the Booker, and he gave me a show. I don't understand it, but here we are. But that said, I'm super excited about this panel. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Real quick, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll introduce our panelists and get started on the first topic. So this show is one of 3 weekly Hippy Dippy shows. There's the Hippy Dippy Roundtable, you probably know that, hosted by Mr. Dylan Burns on Fridays. There is the Hippy Dippy Recruitment Show, which we revived this week, actually. It debuted a few hours ago, hosted by Mr. Geek, who's also right here. The whole gang's here. Also brought to you by Danabo, who does all the booking for the show. If you watched the Hippy Dippy Rumble last Friday, I'm of the opinion that it was all his fault. I'll just say that. But if you like the Twitch panel scene, Danabo does all the booking for those shows, so give him some support, give him a follow. Follow everybody here if you can. A lot of good content. And let's see. Okay, with that, we'll do a brief introduction of our guests. I think that will be fine. We'll go one by one. So everybody just kind of shout yourselves out, give a brief intro of who you are, what you stream, if you like long walks on the beach, or that kind of stuff. Let's start with Aircraft Sparky.
Yes. So I am Aircraft Sparky. I am a nationalist conservative. Some would say I'm an isolationist. Not so much, but kind of really close to it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I also do arts. I do a lot of drawing on streams. I come do these debates, and man, I'm looking at doing things like VR tubing, doing live stream cartoons, having fun, making jokes when we can. Celebrating our commonalities and discussing our differences, and trying to live my best life, and I hope you are too. Make sure to follow me on twitch.tv/aircraftsparky and at youtube.com/aircraftsparky.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Let's throw to we had 2 fill-ins today, actually. 2 people dropped out today, and we had 2 fill-ins, and I'm really excited about the fill-ins, to be honest with you. So we'll go to Redneck. How's it going, Redneck?
What's up?
Yeah,
Redneck.
yeah.
If you don't know who I am, fuck you. You don't need to. Don't need to follow me. I don't care. Don't. I stream when I want, and I come here to piss off Dylan and the left. I think you guys are all full of shit. I think you're the most racist pieces of shit. And yeah, I'm here to prove it. I've been calling out you lefties since the Wuhan leak happened last year. I told you it was a leak. I told you it was man-made. You called me a conspiracy theorist, a lunatic. You've created this show. Now sit in it.
All right. I don't know if anyone else is going to beat that intro, but we'll see. Let's throw it to let's see, CTV, the man who I would say probably was stolen for the title, the Friday title of the Hippy Dippy Rumble. This was the spiritual winner, maybe not the physical winner, but the man, the myth. CTV, how are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to be here, Binks.
Thanks for coming. Let's throw it over to obviously the Vince McMahon. Some say he's the Vince McMahon of Twitch politics. I just think he's a very fierce advocate of ranked choice voting. Dylan Burns.
Unironically, the day after that whole thing happened, there was an article that was published. It was like ranked choice voting could be coming to Maryland. And no event in my life has ever made me a bigger advocate against ranked choice voting than the Hippy Dippy Rumble event. But we're very proud with how that went. I mean, that was like one of the most, that was the most viewed show we ever put together. I'm very happy with it. But I'm Dylan Burns. A lot of people know me because I ship arms for the Albanian National Army. I'm also known because I take checks from the CCP to advocate for their interests. Obviously, Redneck would attest to this. And I'm just here to have a decent time. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go. I'm very excited about this one. We never had him on the show before. Haas from Infrared. I just want to say I watched a stream of his last night where he systematically destroys the structure of empiricism. Okay, it's one to watch for sure. How are you doing, Haas?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. I'm Haas from the Infrared Show. We're a platform for Marxism, Leninism in the age of multipolarity in the post-COVID world.
Thank you very much. Let's go over to the undefeated debater. I don't know if he's still. Last time I talked to him, he said he was undefeated. Cutsleeve, how's it going?
Yo, what's up? My name is Cutsleeve. I guess I'd identify myself as anti-establishment. The biggest thing I want from politics isn't for one side to win. The biggest thing I want from politics is more openness, less discreetness. That's probably going to be my biggest push on this platform right now. That's it for me.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. We'll throw it to, I would call her the Bob Dylan of Twitch politics because she does literally every panel every day and just never stops. Maddie Cakes, how are you?
Great, thank you. Bob Dylan of Twitch politics. What a compliment. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and especially because I get to see so many of my fun friends, including who I thought won easily on Friday, critically thinking veteran. I was rooting for you, buddy.
My birthday buddy.
We're birthday buddies.
Oh, that's cool. All right, thank you. Finally, we'll throw it to this is very American centric. We need a little French flavor to it. Most notorious Frenchman of all time: Joan of Arc, Charles de Gaulle, Edith Piaf, Mr. Geek, who's on this panel. How are you doing, Mr. Geek?
Doing good. Hi, Mr. Geek. I did video for Dylan Burns TV, our event, and everything. Don't watch me. I literally leave my stream on when I go to sleep.
Might want to bring
Happy
your
to
mic
be
a little
here.
bit closer to your face, Geek. Just saying.
A little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
lean in though, because this very relaxed look is a total vibe.
He's
Yeah.
It's working for you.
I need to get you in the arm.
Should be better now.
Okay,
Yeah, there we go.
Are you wearing Are you wearing French flag glasses? Oh, I love it.
it's beautiful. Okay. Well, I'll just go over the rules real quick, then we'll get into the first topic. So we're going to start with opening statements for each topic, so each panelist can kind of give a brief summary of their position, what they think about it. Then we'll head into a general discussion, which will probably last about 45 minutes. There are two kind of big political topics, and the second one's kind of it's sort of a bonus topic and shouldn't last too long, but we'll see. If you cannot speak due to over talking or something like that, raise your hand. I'll try to remember you and write you down. And then kind of pick you when an opportunity presents itself. This should go without saying. No TOS. Be nice. Try to be nice. Let's try to keep it constructive. If I can move it, if it's possible for me to move it to something place a little more constructive. If it's not going that way, I'll try. A lot of big personalities tonight, so I don't know how well that's going to go, but we'll try. And with all that out of the way, we're going to start with the first topic. Like I said, 3-minute opening statement. Voter fraud. We're going to keep this kind of general because I'm interested to see what everyone kind of thoughts on it are, and we'll see where we want to go with it. So is it real? Is it a problem? What should we be doing? Should we be doing anything? And we'll start with Aircraft Sparky.
Well, thank you so much. Look, voter fraud, it's a thing. It always happens every year. Does it happen to enough to sway an election? It really depends on what type of election you're talking about. Usually with local, yes, it definitely does happen. It can sway the elections. We see several times across the country where elections can be come down to 10 to 13 different votes. On the national level, of course, it's not usually that tight. However, we have seen in the past election that there has been several cases of voter fraud. This is why we need to push more towards voter ID, ways to actually identify the voter individually. Because as it stands right now, in several states, they have to just take someone's word on it. They don't even do signature verification. As we see what's going on in the audits in like Arizona and Georgia, there has been several accusations, although not proven fully, of voter fraud. It raises a lot of questions. And if people cannot trust the system of selecting our leaders, it is going to do nothing but divide this country even more. And this whole idea of voter ID being racist, you literally have to have an ID for almost everything in America today. If you want to fly on a plane, if you want to get a job, if you want to drive, and I know all those things aren't rights. I get that. But if you have to do anything in society with some type of officiality, you need an ID to include purchasing a gun, which is a right. And as far as I'm concerned, background checks are pretty much unconstitutional, but they do require, in order to purchase this nice little tool, an ID. So does voter fraud happen? I do believe so. We'll get into the minutia of it. The extent, well, that's definitely debatable.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Maddie.
Hey, so voter ID laws. I know this has been a big issue, well, like not only voter ID laws, but just voter fraud in general. So if we look historically at what has resulted in voter fraud, so the actual instances where voter fraud has been uncovered, those instances are primarily people who try to vote twice. This whole notion that there are people voting without IDs because somehow they are different than the person they claim to be, or there's some mass conspiracy where all these like fraudulent votes are being cast, is simply untrue.
Thank you, Blaze.
That is echoed by the court system, who has rejected every single contested vote or allegations of fraud in this last election. And I believe that tally is now above 80 different cases that have been thrown out. And this includes ones that have been so-called audited by so-called neutral parties or, nonpartisan, whatever. So I think it's largely scare tactics. The one reason that I personally, and a lot of people on the left, are opposed to requiring a government ID for voting is because it is cost prohibitive for a lot of people in this country. So when we put barriers to voting, like a voter ID, where people are then required to spend money in order to purchase an ID, that is something that prevents them potentially from voting. If we had a way to make government IDs free, where everyone was issued one, regardless of whether or not they could pay for it, that would be a different story, because then we would be eliminating that barrier to voting. But until we do that, until we address the barriers that prevent people from participating in democracy, including not being able to afford it, it simply won't lead to a more equitable system. So yeah, I think largely the allegations of voter fraud are fear-mongering, and the requirements for an ID to cast your vote is, it kind of disproportionately dissuades people from poorer communities and more marginalized communities from voting.
Thank you very much. Let's go with Cutsleeve next.
Yeah. I thought this was about, voter fraud, not, voter ID. But I mean, if we can steer that conversation if we want to, I actually think the Georgia voter ID is probably a good rule, and it mitigates the past racial issues that voter ID has had. We've all know, and it's just undoubtedly a fact, that voter ID has a racist history. So does busing. So does schooling. That doesn't mean every single instance of voter ID is racist. Now, on to the main question of the day. Do I think election fraud happened? Well, it's unprovable. I mean, it's undoubtable that election fraud did happen. I'm not sure if it swayed to one side or another, and I'm not sure if it was very impactful at all. I think the much more bigger question was the election stolen before the election even happened? And I do believe that the media influence or the establishment influence kind of swayed the election much, much before any voting ever even been counted. I think, the media's influence, I think corporations' influence definitely swayed the election so it could lean to their candidate side. And we can discuss that later on. I yield.
Sounds good. I want to throw it to Has.
Basically, my view on this issue of voter fraud, I don't know if there's widespread voter fraud in America. I haven't been convinced of anything. I'm sure it happened in the past, somewhere along America's history, but basically I think this issue is a complete distraction and is a complete, basically, waste of time. So it seems like there's many issues in America which are just meant to signal partisan affiliations and signal different kind of tribalistic loyalties to which party and which political sector. The fact of the matter is, there is a fundamental division in America. Certain places geographically, demographically vote for different candidates. It's not an evenly distributed voter base in terms of partisan affiliation across geographic and demographic lines. And I think more attention should be paid to this division rather than nothing burger issues such as voter fraud and voter ID.
Thank you. Let's go to Redneck.
So you have someone on the left that adamantly states that there's no such thing as voter fraud because, hey, 80 cases of our courts have said there's no voter fraud. Yet that's how them fucks get put in office. Actually kind of agree with the Leninist Marxists in the sense that this is bullshit. Let's get past the right and left and let's actually look at what's happened this past election. This past election was censorship of a sitting president, his First Amendment, but then, he was saying hateful shit. He was saying all these other things. So, that didn't happen. He doesn't have a right to express himself because that's hate speech. I bet that Marxist, Leninist guy, he can say that there's no such thing as corruption either because in his form of government, you don't have a say. You're just another puppet. That's what's happening in America
Let me
today.
make my case
Our
first.
votes-
Don't speak for me. Let me make my case.
Okay, all right.
Did I interrupt you?
But you're talking about me.
Yeah, well, so I'm going to start talking
It's
about you in a
fine,
minute too. You going to interrupt me?
Eyes
So
on
shut
the
the
road,
fuck up
buddy,
right now.
eyes
Let
on
me
the
Maybe
finish.
I
road.
will
Opening
interrupt you.
statements,
Maybe I
opening
will.
statements, guys. Let's finish.
10 and
Redneck
2,
finish.
10 and 2.
All right.
Guys, I know I'm handsome.
mean-
You don't have to. I know I'm unavoidable. I'm such a distraction. You can't focus on your own fucking
Yeah, I got you. Now shut
introduction.
your mouth.
All right,
You gotta
Shut your
only
mouth.
talk about me.
Shut your mouth. Shut
Well,
your
we can go
mouth.
into this
Shut your
in
bitch ass
general.
mouth,
Shut your
motherfucker. Don't
mouth.
talk
What
to
you
me
gonna do?
like
You gonna
that.
come over here? Come on over here, please.
All right.
Please.
So you're telling me
Okay.
to shut up? How are you gonna
I
make
know,
me shut up?
please.
How are you gonna make
see
me
that?
shut
I'm
up?
still perfectly calm. I'm just not going to listen to you. I'm just going to overtalk you,
Then
right?
don't listen
So
to
either
me.
A,
Can
the
we keep
moderator is
it-
going to take control.
Don't listen to me then.
All
Off
right.
to a great start.
All right. Redneck, can you please finish your statement?
Okay, so as I said, the left is all happy and giddy because they won. That's the pitch we've had for a year and a half. We've listened to this bullshit. We have point blank true shit that happened in the court systems. COVID, all that bullshit. Come on, two topics that intertwined and made our government say, "Fuck you, voters. We're gonna do what we want to do." Maddie's just laughing because, oh, it's our side. Dylan's laughing because, oh, it's just our side. We're happy. But guess what? One day that's not going to be you. It's going to be the other side that you're going to be looking, going, man, my pussy hurts because they took my vote. Keep talking, y'all. This is not about right or left. This is actually about government. They don't care about us. They've proven it this election. They did what they wanted to do. Fraud happened. It has been proven. It's in factual evidence. And you bitches can keep saying we won when all you're doing is sucking the big corporate cocks and taking it like men. Go ahead. Have at it.
Thank you, Redneck. We'll go to Dylan. I feel like Dylan wants to respond.
First, I'd say that the cocks I suck are not corporate. Just want to make that
They
clear.
definitely are.
They're not. They're just normal cocks. Secondly, I just want to say that recently, the big Arizona audit is finishing up. It's finally happening, and there was all these statements from all these different public officials, Trump and others, that this was going to be the real, this was it. That this was the big thing. This was going to finally blow it up because there hasn't been any real examples of widespread voter fraud, and we finally have the review done, and the Arizona County election officials have identified fewer than 200 cases of potential, not actual, potential voter fraud out of more than 3 million ballots. This really is an issue just to beat your chest on. This is an issue that I think right wingers say to other right wingers to hype themselves up on, but there isn't much voter fraud to actually look at here in this past election. It was not widespread. Trump's own officials admitted publicly that it was not widespread. Those officials then got fired by Trump for admitting that publicly. There's no widespread fraud that could have impacted the last election. There's no evidence that it's going to be a major problem going forward. And when it comes to the history of voter ID laws, we can just go into a time where we were all still alive in North Carolina, where they tried to pass voter ID laws, and they were ruled unconstitutional because they were specifically choosing voter IDs that are used majority by the black community. And while they never mentioned in the law, we don't want black people to vote, what they did is they laser focused on IDs used in the black community, and that's why it was ruled unconstitutional. While that isn't the same with all voter ID laws basically in effect adds another barrier between people and voting. And if I haven't been presented any evidence that that voter fraud is a serious issue, why would I want to put more barriers between people and voting, no matter how minuscule? Definitely when voting is such an integral part of this nation's democracy, however flawed it is. So you would have to actually make a serious case to me that it's a legitimate issue if you're going to be asking to spend government money on a problem or waste any of our time on a problem. This feels more like a way to kind of virtue signal and just kind of really just honestly just target the vote. That's really what it feels like. That's it for me.
Thank you. We'll throw it to Mr. Geek.
Shaka, I agree with Dylan. What's happening right now in Arizona, the audit led by Cyber Ninja is literally nothing. The level to which they are is literally looking for bamboo to establish that the paper is coming from China or looking for Cheeto dust. This is not a joke. This is literally their process. So yeah, this is a another desperate attempt because they haven't found anything. And for the people who say that voter fraud happened, please provide your source. That's all I have to say.
Sounds good. And then finally, we'll go to CTV.
I think there's always been at least some level of voter fraud. To the level and extension of it, right, always seems to come down to how much evidence you can find, right? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of nuance about that particular conversation. But at this time, I'd like to point out, everybody, especially here in the Central Florida area, right? It's hurricane season. Make sure you get yourself a DC to AC inverter, right? That way you can plug it into your vehicle. You can have AC electrical power to your refrigerator to be able to keep your beer cold or whatever food, right? It's definitely something that you want to make sure you have on your person at all times. It's like a basic survival tool, really. Like, intellectual thought, like reading the rules, right, to begin with during opening statements. You keep your fucking mouth shut, right? That's also a good thing to have.
You will get respect
Oh,
if you
look
earn
at you!
respect.
You're going again. Can't
No,
read the
you,
fucking
you,
rules,
you don't
can
you don't
You can't read the
disrespect me,
fucking rules, can you?
motherfucker.
You
Nobody
can't read the
disrespect
fucking
me.
rules, can you?
You
Thank
don't
you.
disrespect me. You understand?
That's all right. Look
You
at
don't
all
disrespect
hall
me.
monitor.
All right, guys,
I
we're
love
about to
it.
get in the general. We're about to get in the general. Okay, 2 seconds. Thank you, CTV. Opening state. All right, general conversation. Please,
Not
for
giving
love
a
of
fuck.
God. Yeah, anyone have any thoughts? Floor is open.
All right. So
The
when it
left are
comes
bitches.
True.
when it
but
comes down to things like,
Thank you for
does
that
voter
analysis.
fraud exist? Yes. Let's see here. I have this right here. This is from VOA. They're saying in Georgia's election, there was as many as 1,000 voters who may have double voted. There was people arrested in Texas for voter fraud. Fraud does exist. Now, the amount of fraud that does exist, that is where the true debate is. So the question
That's
is,
not a debate, bro. Don't give them that. It's. They say it doesn't exist at all, and it does.
Well,
They
it
just
does
don't want us.
exist.
Wait. To be clear, nobody on this panel, on the left, this mystical like thing you're trying to create on whatever the left is, never claimed that voter fraud doesn't at all exist. It's just in such minuscule amounts, it seems pointless to try to
Every
put up more barriers
vote
between
is
people in the
local.
vote.
Every election is local, mister. I know everything. I've served and I've helped governors and mayors and a local councilman. Come on, Dylan.
Why are you
Every
being?
fucking
Has
is
no
local.
Are you
connection.
okay?
I could list my credentials too. Like I learned how to do email marketing. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
I didn't try to like pull out a card and like look at my pass. I don't know why we're doing this, but all I'm saying is there's not much. If you can show me all these examples of this becoming a major
So why
issue,
would
but like
why
what
would
you're
why
talking about, like
would
for example, like
why did the
let's wait. Let
Democrats?
me finish.
New York.
Can
What
somebody?
about New York? Go ahead,
What
Dylan.
All right.
What about New
about-
York? Why did the Democrats sue to get? Why did the Democrats
Finish his
try to sue
question
to
to
have the
you, and
audit?
then you can shoot your not
Hey,
bad
I'm
faith
not.
question
I'm
back
not
at him.
against audits happening, but these audits happen, and then the voter fraud never usually is the issue. What the issue is, oh, there was a problem with the machines, or oh, there was a problem with this, oh, there was a problem with that. It's never that we found tons of widespread cases of voter fraud. It's always, oh, we forgot to count this, or oh, we forgot to count that, which is not a problem of people trying to commit voter fraud. That's a problem of governmental incompetence. That's two totally different issues.
What about the government overriding the government
Now,
themselves?
I wanted to
overriding their own
respond to
state
aircraft's.
constitutions.
I want to
right,
respond
well,
to Aircraft's
okay.
thing for a second because Aircraft said something earlier I didn't get respond to, and it was may have, and that's a very important term because what happens when we do these audits and reviews, what they do is they don't say these are all the cases of voter fraud we have. What they'll do is they'll wrap it up and they'll say these are potential voter fraud cases. For example, out of the recent Arizona voter fraud like audit and everything they did, and they had to look at bamboo because of all these like theories that are being thrown out. 200 of potential voter fraud cases out of 3 million. And what that showed is most likely it's not going to be 200. It's going to end up maybe being 100 or maybe 110 if I'm being generous out of that potential, which shows that it does exist, but it shows that it is so minuscule that the idea was going to actually cause an effect on the election to overturn the election or change the outcomes of the election, which is what these large-scale voter fraud laws and voter protection laws are being passed in order to combat, seems like a waste of government funds. It seems like a waste of everyone's time. We know that state governments with gerrymandering and with voter ID laws before have tried to tilt elections in their favor, and that's what seems to be happening right now. And so I'm not gonna be like being in favor of enacting all these laws if someone cannot prove to me this is a legitimate issue.
Yeah,
So
Wait. Let's start the cut sleeve because cut sleeve raises his hand.
yeah, I can give you a couple of reasons why you would want voter ID if that's what we're talking about now. Just as a Democrat side, right? The 6 states who've already had voter ID, most of them during the next election flipped Democrat. From everyone's side, when these states implemented voter ID, every single state voted more in the next election. And just another general thing, when you implement these voter ID laws, lines get shorter. More people vote, but lines get shorter. So there's plenty of reasons to implement voter ID laws. No one on the panel is
Please explain to me how when people have to have a piece of plastic, that means the line gets shorter. Why?
Just because fewer people. No,
Dylan,
lines
why
get
are you
shorter
going
when you
down that little
open more
rabbit hole?
polling
Bullshit.
places.
Because what do you mean? What do you
take the statement?
what do
Take
you
the fucking
mean?
statement. He said Democrats.
What?
He said the flip
What do
states.
you mean?
Why can't you take it that way?
Why? I'm
Why
just
can't
asking a
because
question.
you do this?
Why
This
are
is
you
what
so
you do.
angry?
Okay,
No, because you're trying to
Asking a
pigeonhole it down to
follow-up
something else.
Redneck,
Bullshit,
calm
Dylan.
down.
Right.
No,
So
I'm done with your games. I told you
What do
that
you mean
shit the
my
other day. I'm
games?
done with your bullshit.
All I did was ask a
Your
question.
bullshit.
All right, I'd rather not
you're
talk
trying to
about
steer
Dylan.
the
Whatever.
answer.
Why?
All right, let's
I'm
get back to the
sorry
question.
You have a hate boner for me.
Okay.
I thought CTV could have won
I don't
that.
get bonus for you.
Right? I'm not that angry at it, but I did think CTV tried to win too. So I can understand your anger with Dylan. But to answer his question, it's just statistically proven that the lines get shorter because voter ID makes it so that the lines move more efficiently. And even then, on the Democrat side, again, it's just one less argument that the conservatives have.
Voter IDs are not for voter protection then. This is
This is purely an operational, like an expedited operational decision.
Every one of us need a social security card. It's fucking free. Put a picture on it. What the fuck's the problem?
So wait, we're not talking about social security cards.
Because if you
Why
can use a social security card to vote, then sure.
Right.
But you can't.
Everybody needs a social.
Yeah,
no tax,
but
no
you can't use
without
it to vote. You can't use that.
You
to
have
vote,
to just look. You can't be charged tax by your government unless you have a social, right? Taxation without representation can't happen. So tie them together. Put a picture on them. I'll sign for that. Go.
All right, Sparky. Wait, Sparky.
Okay.
Sorry, Sparky.
Ask the question from
Wait, Kat's leave. Sparky, Sparky's gone.
All righty, look. So it's already been admitted. Okay, everyone says that it does exist. Now the argument is how much of it does exist. I get that. Okay, now in my world, in a perfect world, we would say no voter fraud exists. What would be one of the best methods to eliminate voter fraud? And well, voter ID would be it. And by the way, states that require voter ID have means for people to get free IDs. If they choose to not go down and get them, like in Texas, you get a free state ID if you don't need to drive or anything like that. So programs already exist to help people get their free ID so they can go vote. Voting is a right, and we should protect that right. Protecting it doesn't mean we just hand it off to everyone in the ether. It means we make sure that only citizens votes. The people who are actually part of the country gets the votes. And the way that we do that, and make sure that they don't double vote or anything stupid like that, the way we do that is through sound verification, and the way to do that is through voter ID.
Okay, I want to go to Geek and then Maddie, and then we can go into the General Chaos. You're muted, Geek.
Sorry. All right, quick pushback. First of all, like, how would voter ID affect voter fraud? I don't understand the links. How does one stop the other? And on top of that, you would have to prove that it's a problem in the first place to put that as a solution.
If it exists, it's a problem, sir.
What?
Wouldn't you agree?
That's okay. So this doesn't make sense because voter
Statistically, no.
IDs. Well, if you put more restrictions between anyone and doing something, less people are going to do it. This is true of anything. For example, a big thing that websites do is they always make sure there's always one click away to get to the store of any website. And the reason why is if you have to click 3 times, even if it's just clicking a screen 3 times, less people are going to end up doing it. Because it's more barriers between the people and products, the people or whatever you want them to do. And the more barriers you put up, period, no matter how small and inconvenient they could be, will do that. It's a big reason why, even though I am considered by many people to be more pro-gun Democrat, I'm against a lot of gun laws and gun restrictions because it means you're restricting a lot of people from things that I believe are their constitutional right. And
so you're against background checks? Then I would ask.
Background checks is something I haven't completely finished my position on, and I can
Okay.
admit to that. I don't know for sure because I'm generally considered pro-gun. But the thing is, when it comes to voter ID laws, is if the issue is so minuscule, and in my opinion, because no one has been able to prove to me that this is something that's overturning elections, and it most certainly didn't do so in the last election, all these audits, all these lawsuits, everything has proven that, then I'm not going to be in favor of putting up this restriction. And you can say, well, afterwards, more people turned out to vote. Now, we can also accept the fact that many of this might be because Democrats will usually use these types of voting laws to try to spur their base into getting more active, and it can be connected to other things. But the issue with voter ID isn't just the idea that, well, less people in general might come out to vote. It has to do with which communities in particular it could overly target and hurt, because of which communities, on average, have a lower amount of government-issued IDs. If you look at the percentage of the population that has a lack of government-issued IDs, 8% of them are white, 25% of them are black. That's across the board.
So
That's
how
from the Brenner Justice Center.
Okay, so how do these individuals actually survive day to day? How do they get jobs? How do they do things such as get things like government benefits and things like that with the social safety net, because you have to prove your identity. So to actually
Well, it
sit there and
seems that
say they
they're-
don't have these IDs, I
Well,
think that's a
the
bit
big-
They
disingenuous.
could
sir.
literally
To be-
read
wait,
you
wait,
off
to
of
be
their
cl- to be
website what's
clear,
required.
there is documented, and I can
find
send you
it.
the link. People do live without government issued IDs that would be used to vote. That is
So I
just
assume
true.
that you're against.
Are you denying that those people are not in existence, or
Well, I assume then that
Talking
you're
about the
against
Amish?
COVID passports, right?
what do you mean? Am I against COVID passports?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say with the
I
logical
don't really.
line
I
of
don't have.
reasoning would
Well,
be
wait,
that
wait. I
you
don't
would be
have.
against
I don't
that.
know about. I don't have a position on COVID passports. I never thought about
Well,
it.
you
Also, we're not
certainly just
talking
made
about
the
that right
argument
now.
for
Well,
not
the thing
being in
is-
favor of one.
I mean, I
not
would
talking about that
acknowledge.
right now.
Wait. I would have to acknowledge that putting any barrier between. I would acknowledge that a COVID passport will mean less people will fly, right? And so, if my goal is to have as many people as vote as possible, then I would be against putting up that barrier. Do you not
You're
see the
so
problem? And
full of
if
shit.
my
No,
goal,
but
if
Dylan,
my
you are
goal,
so
wait,
full of
let
shit.
me finish. Look, everybody's
Sorry,
jumping on me. I understand it, right? You want to get your hits in on Dylan, but at least let me finish, right? And if my goal is to have as many people fly as possible, then yes, I would try to get rid of COVID passports and as many barriers that I could within reason in order to have as many people fly. And since I don't think voter ID is something that we need to do because voter fraud hasn't been shown to be a significant enough issue.
You know why y'all hate it?
Let me.
Yeesh,
What,
dude.
Redneck? Please, Redneck,
Eyes on the
please
road.
enlighten me with the
All right.
very intelligent thing you're about
All
to say.
There it is. Very intelligent thing. No, there it is. You guys think you got it all figured out. You're smarter than everybody, but yet
Well,
you're
no,
sitting here
but you're
preaching.
interrupting me.
Yeah,
That's
hang
why
on.
I'm
You're sitting here
frustrated,
preaching. Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you because you're full of shit. You guys are sitting here pitching this bullshit. You're pitching bullshit.
Yeah,
It's
Dylan,
nothing. All you do is you go rabbit hole down like, oh, you can't prove to me there was any fraud, yet you acknowledge there's
Right.
fraud. Now we're going to debate how much fraud there is.
We literally have multiple
Bottom-
times said that there
bottom-
is fraud. No one is denying that there are instances of fraud, but
So
statistically, the difference is that let's say there's 20 instances of fraud in a single state, because that is something that's happened. They did a review in Wisconsin not that long ago. They've done these in multiple states where they actually
Yeah.
audited and say, okay, it's 20 instances. Guess how many fucking votes
No,
were cast?
There's 200,000 instances in Wisconsin. Don't bring up
Guess how
Wisconsin,
many
Maddie.
guess
Oh,
how
Maddie, he
many-
Don't even
lives
bring
in
up
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin,
He
Maddie.
actually
Okay,
knows
one at a time.
Wisconsin.
Maddie?
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm
Don't bring
bringing
up
it
Wisconsin.
up, dude?
I'll bury you right here. I'll bury you right here with the facts of Wisconsin. If you want to go down that
I'll bury
rabbit
you
hole,
with
we'll
the
go.
facts. Go for it.
Don't
Can't
Can
wait.
I?
We don't
Can I
we
finish
don't
my
The state of
know facts
Wisconsin did
logic.
follow the state constitution. They accepted
Yeah, so here's the
270,000
thing.
votes without
Mm-mm.
constitution.
Okay, I'm
Can I
calling it.
finish?
I'm calling it. I'm calling it. I'm
200
calling it. I'm calling it. Stop. Okay, cut sleeve. And then.
Wait,
and
I was
Dylan.
supposed to speak before.
Oh, Maddie. I'm sorry. Yeah, Maddie first. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, I know we're getting down this rabbit hole of like voter IDs, and then like you Dems don't know what you're talking about, rebel. But I also want to bring up another point about voter IDs that isn't necessarily based in just that they're cost prohibitive or that they prevent marginalized people from voting. There's another really important thing to
fuck's
keep in
sake.
mind is that go for fuck's sakes yourself. Hold on a second while I'm talking.
Skin color's a
the
problem
thing
for
about-
voting.
Hold the fuck on. Shut the fuck up. I'm talking. You only have your chance. But for now, this is my turn. So IDs also typically require documentation in order to
Social
procure
Security.
an ID, but there are barriers to that, and here's why. So if you think about people that are from the foster care system, there are foster kids who have a hard time locating their birth certificate. So the fact that they would need that in order to get an ID or any sort of government
You're bringing shit out of your ass.
form of, okay, no, your ass is fucking huge and needs to sit in that
Thank you,
fucking car and shut the
Sankara.
fuck up.
Appreciate it.
They have
Okay.
a social security card. Why are you going past that?
All right, we don't need to bring
I'm
asses
talking.
into this, okay? Let's do
Okay, that's fine. But let me
I was
finish,
just wondering how
okay?
much
And then you can,
examination
and
she
then
did,
you
really.
can go on a tirade, and then you can go on a tirade and call me stupid and call me a libtard or whatever else is in your Rolodex of dumb boomer insults, okay? So here's the thing.
There it
We
is.
have
Keep
people
going.
that are in like the thank you. Again, you'll have your chance. So
He's talking for 5
people
minutes
that are
saying
homeless,
nothing.
thank you.
Just say
Shut the
something.
fuck up. It's been
That's
5
funny from
minutes of
Redneck.
you interrupting constantly.
All right, let's
I
give it
would
to
love
Maddie
to say
for
something, okay?
Floor's Maddie.
Okay. Thank you. So again, there are people that are in the foster care system. There are people that have unfortunately become homeless or have like relationships with their families where they don't have ready access to things like their birth certificate, like their social security card. I know people who were disowned for their families because they came out as gay or came out as trans, and their families were the ones that had control over those documentation. So there are a lot of barriers. These are things that we have to consider when we're talking about voting rights. If we actually want everyone who is eligible, who is a citizen, to vote, or if you don't care about that, or if you think, oh, well, fuck them, then it seems like you really only care about people who are wealthy enough to be able to afford an ID and people who come from a background where they have all this stuff readily available. But that excludes millions of people in this country, and that is patently undemocratic.
Speaking
Right.
of democracy, why
Social security card.
is
Everybody you mentioned has a
All
social
right.
security card. Every person and everything you
Not
mentioned
true.
has a social security
Not
card.
true.
Okay,
You
okay.
gave white people problems. Ain't none of that bullshit happening in fucking rural America or where
Your
people are
ethos is a
suffering,
white
real
person
suffering.
problem.
My parents disown me because I say I'm gay. I can't vote. Get the fuck out of here with y'all's bullshit.
All right. We're
Do
gonna
you
go.
think that doesn't happen?
we're gonna go-
Do you deny? Do you think that doesn't
No,
happen?
I don't think it doesn't happen. I don't think there's any parent that tells their kids you're fucking gay, you can't vote. Get the
All right.
fuck out of here.
You think people wouldn't have access to their
I'm
birth
gonna mute
certificate?
people if we don't stop. Okay. All right. We're gonna go cut sleeve, then hat.
You sad
Right.
man.
Just to push back on both sides here. I don't think I don't agree with Redneck's point that if it happens once, then it's a problem. Like, I mean, there's sure to be a gun homicide. I wouldn't be in the removal, or I wouldn't be a fan of the removal of all guns. But I will push back on Maddie here a little bit because I can understand the fact that in the past people have been discriminated based on their class, and that's a reason why they couldn't vote. But that's why I'm so in favor of the Georgian bill. Right? In the past, we couldn't have schooling because that's racially segregated. Busing was racially segregated, and it's the same thing with voter ID. But now
Democrats.
Yeah, but the Georgia bill. I mean, I don't want to play politics.
Thank
here,
you, Professor.
But the Georgia bill makes it so
It is though. It is what it is.
the ID is
Yo,
free.
Redneck, if you get too mad, you're gonna crash. You gotta calm down, man.
Yeah, Redneck, let me just say this. Can you please keep your eye on the road because people are worried that it'll be reported for TOS or whatever.
I'm scanning the environment. I know how to drive. Don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy.
Just putting it out there. Okay.
I pointed out that he's wearing shades and that people need to stop worrying about that dumb shit.
The point is that like there's like I'm in favor of this Georgia bill because like it doesn't seem to discriminate. And if anyone's heard it, it's the white rural people because one, there's going to be more of the voting stations in urban areas, less in the rural areas. But overall, black people en masse, like not even close, are in support of the Georgia voting bill. Most people are in support of the Georgia voting bill overall. And it seems like since it is free and it does increase voters, that this is a no cost bill. I yield.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go to Has.
What confuses me is that if the issue is corruption and fraud in American democracy, why isn't more attention paid by conservatives to the systemic impediments and corruption that's rigged against third parties and anti-establishment candidates in general? What good is the question
Because
of
they're all rigged together.
what good is the question of voting when the only choices you have available to you is the corrupt establishment? The same thing, two sides of the same coin.
Okay, we're gonna go to Geek.
All right. we ended up talking about so much
He asked
shit.
a question.
To finish on the voter ID, I'm going to mute. To finish on the voter ID thing, voter ID is literally if you want to hunt rabbit and you carpet bomb the whole forest. Voter fraud is a problem. Voter fraud exists. We all admit it, but it's on the margin of like 0.0 something. It's never something so important and everything. And I'm still waiting to see any source or any link to any voter fraud claim that turned out to be true.
Okay,
Massive
Dylan.
voter fraud claim.
Yep, Dylan.
So, I mean, when it comes to voter fraud, right? Okay, let's acknowledge that people committed voter fraud. We've already done it 10 times, we'll do it again. I also acknowledge people jaywalk. I believe jaywalking is also an issue. My solution to it wouldn't be, well, let's put like a militarized police guard near every crosswalk so we can make sure that nobody jaywalks. Because then it would, that would obviously make people not want to move around as much. It would be a huge cost to the cost of it isn't worth it because no one's presented to me that jaywalking is a significant enough problem to need a response of that scale. I don't think that voter fraud has been shown to be a significant enough problem to require anything like a voter ID laws or the laws being passed on the state level across this country on this scale. Definitely off the back of an election where voter fraud was not historically any higher than it ever is. And this is being popularized due to the fact that people are still coping about the fact that Donald Trump lost the presidential election, and Donald Trump wanted to find a justification for that outside of the fact that he just wasn't popular. And on to the third parties, I'm 100% in favor of third parties being given a shot in the United States. Sadly, it isn't practical, I guess, right now for either party to accept that. It'd be asking two established powers to give up their own power so others could take power. We see with the debate requirements on how they have gotten more and more biased against third parties. I remember it was, I think, in the 2000 election or back when the year once the Libertarian Party got close enough, they just raised the polling requirement to 15%, besides the last 5%. And so to have the best next hope for anybody is to either get into one of these parties to increase the political diversity of it, like with the AOC types all the way to Joe Manchin types, and then create extremely big tent parties, which has its own problems. Because third parties, I would love to see that happen. I just don't see it as politically feasible, at least not now.
Okay, we'll throw it to Redneck and then Sparky.
So I agree with the Establishment Clause question that the gentleman that's a Leninist, Marxist, whatever they call themselves, said.
Marxist-Leninist.
I mean, we are fucked. We are whatever. We are fucked. One is your vote, whether you think the vote was stolen or not, we can sit here and debate all day long. I just don't understand why the Democrats are pushing so hard about an ID that everybody else agrees upon. That is a right. You want us to have gun IDs. You want us to have passports for vaccine IDs. You want us to have a driver's license. You want us to have all these other form of IDs. But when we talk about voting, oh my God, poor black people and brown people can't go get no ID.
Are you in favor of gun licenses?
They can't make it down to the place to go get that. I am not in favor of any licenses required.
So
unless,
why are you in why are you in favor of that for voting?
In Texas, starting on September 1st, you will not need an ID to purchase a gun.
So you're in favor.
Actually, that's false.
Rejecting all these gun control measures, and you're using that against us.
Federal law.
But you're not in favor of those same measures.
I'm in favor. I'm in favor. If we're going to play y'all's game, which we have to play right now because you guys have it all in your hands, then let's play it right. Let's at least make it fair for all of us. And I think that if you're going to accept any kind of government form of subsidies or any fucking tax dollar, give me your fucking name, address, and a fingerprint. That's it. It's that simple. Who the fuck are you kidding when you say nobody can afford it? No, they can't do this. They can't do that. It's a Prussian Olympics again. I mean, it's ridiculous.
All right, Sparky?
All right, so Matty Cakes actually cited about how I think it was 80 cases that were dismissed. Those were seen without cause. That was in her opening statement. It wasn't really that they read the case and they went, oh, no, this is just completely false. No, they actually said that they didn't have standing. 9 times out of 10, it was about standing. That the reason why these cases were dismissed. Now, I'm not sitting here to litigate the 2020 election. I'm sitting here talking about, does voter fraud exist? Yes, everyone admits it does. The least little bit should be considered a problem. Now, when we were in Iraq, when we set up the actually most democratic election, we actually used biometrics. I saw all the people walking around with little blue fingers because we used their fingerprints. Now, in America, we don't want that to happen because we don't want the American government to have a database of certain biometric markers, such as fingerprints, DNA, and such like that. Of course, all the veterans on this panel, yeah, they have our stuff. But for you, the traditional citizen, we don't want y'all to have to give up that information. The more information that y'all have, the less free that y'all give up, the less free you are. When we look at it, voter fraud, is it a huge problem? Well, maybe on the federal level, maybe not so much. But on the local level, where we see things like, oh, this mayoral contest was actually settled by 13 votes. Don't you think voter fraud, even in the most minuscule and statistically insignificant, wouldn't that be considered to be important to look into? Because now we're talking about the executive of that local city that could affect, I don't know, if not just thousands, but could be hundreds of thousands. Look at like the state of New York, where they found, 170,000 votes that should never have been counted because they were test votes. And that is a form of voter fraud.
Wait. Let's be clear.
Can you cite an example?
Wait. The test votes would not have been stopped.
Is that a laugh because you can't? And it's funny?
I'm just laughing because I laugh because you guys immediately go like, oh, we're gonna go pull out, and we're gonna extract the littlest insignificant piece of material, except to frame the argument.
What do you, Redneck?
Yeah,
Please don't crash.
Just move on.
Please don't crash.
What would you like cited, please?
I'll
find citations.
A local race with vast instances of voter fraud.
Okay.
Sorry, Dylan. I'm sorry.
157,000 test votes, like sample ballot, like test votes, not sample ballots, test votes. Okay. How would voter ID would have stopped the test votes from being cast? Because it wasn't that people walk up with a test vote and throw that in there. That was
so you're acknowledging now that the computer system on its own.
Damn it, Redneck. Yes, earlier today I said the biggest problem with elections is the computers not working, malfunctions, and governmental incompetence.
Or they were remotely controlled, right?
Binks?
Or is that too conspiracy? Is that too conspiracy for you?
Redneck, can you please let Dylan finish his point?
Sure, I can. I just like digging in his ass like that.
I can tell.
Redneck, right, I don't want you to dig in my ass. Thank you.
No ass talk. All right, new rule. No ass talk on the show. Okay, go ahead.
Boo!
So
157,000.
Is that just because it's not corporate though? I mean,
right?
TV is like I draw the line at first. They took ass, and I said
no. All right, Dylan. Everyone, play the quiet game. Dylan's going to talk because he is putting his hand on his head like he is annoyed.
157,000 test votes would not been counted in this instance because of voter ID. They would have been counted. That is the government's fault. That is not the fault of any individual voter for having counted a test ballot. Test ballots are used, as far as I know, to make sure that machines are working and make sure that everything's working properly. So voter ID laws wouldn't have even helped at all in the New York situation. So I don't know how that would have fixed the situation, whatever. It would have had to have been fixed due to the government incompetence level, due to the governmental incompetence, or the company that was doing the actual using the machines to count. So how would voter ID have stopped those test ballots from being counted?
Actually, it would not have stopped that.
Let's start at the cut sleeve.
Yeah. So I don't, like the, election fraud turned over the election. I don't like that type of argument. I like to argue more of a utilitarian standpoint that this would probably benefit everyone in their own ways. And I think this would overall make the elections more efficient, right? So specifically nothing to do with 2020, but there was another situation with New York where signatures weren't checked and 250,000 ballots went missing. Same thing with California, 100,000 ballots need to be rejected because of just like elections inconsistencies. Now, no one's saying that this favored a party or another. That's why it wasn't a big thing in 2016 or in the past election. But what we're saying is voter ID would make it so these signatures didn't have to be thrown out and just make the election process and the voting process much easier. It would make the election much more efficient. That's why you see in every single state, specifically Indiana, where as soon as they implemented voter laws, the voting went up 30%. That voter ID makes elections more efficient. And that's what in the lines of I want to debate about.
So I do want to.
Does it stop voter fraud?
Does it stop?
He's not arguing a voter fraud argument, I don't think. Because
Well, the topic
he's
is
making a
voter
different
fraud.
argument. Well, the topic is voter fraud, but for some reason we've deviated the voter ID because every time it happens. But I just want to acknowledge that, Aircraft did say that it wouldn't have impacted it, that it wouldn't have, voter ID would not have stopped what happened in New York City with that election. The 157,000 test ballots were not cast by voters, and that wasn't an instance of voters committing voter fraud. That was an instance of the company messing up. So voter ID would not have fixed that situation. I also want to bring up the fact that even if it does create some more efficiency, like Cutsleeve was bringing up, I do want to bring up the fact that he has acknowledged the racial history of voter ID laws. And as early as the 2000s, we've still had voter ID laws rejected by the Supreme Court due to them having a racial bias. And it's not as simple as, we don't like black people signed into law. It never is that direct. What they did is they laser targeted voter IDs in North Carolina that were being used by black communities. And you can see stuff like this still in effect in Texas. A great example of this is they make it so you have to have an ID to vote. Okay, well, gun licenses that you get to have a gun, that you can use to vote. You can use a gun license. You cannot use a student license. And so this is when you need to get into the nuance. That 80% of the people who own handgun licenses in Texas are white. 50% of those who hold student licenses in the state of Texas, they're of the minority population. These little nuances happen across the board in many of these state and local governments.
I can acknowledge it, but I don't think it could be any more relevant to the case, right? I mean, I've watched the Destiny debate before. I know what happened with the North Carolina thing. I mean, but schooling's the same way. Schooling is still racist. You can still find racial biases in schooling as look at modern times to both sides. You just had affirmative action, Brown v. Board of Education.
So you're acknowledging that these voter ID laws are racist then?
Okay, hold up. Dylan, look, come on. You can't just sit here and let him sit here and steer these conversations around all this. It's about voter fraud. You admitted it. You just called the government the company. And here we are all sitting here telling you that's exactly the problem.
No,
you called the government the company who comes it up.
To do this.
You acknowledge,
what are you talking about?
You acknowledge that
government works with private companies. Remember Dominion?
Can I finish? Are you going to shut your lip?
I didn't call the government the company. There's a company the government works with to get these elections done.
Okay.
I believe it's called the contractor. Thank you.
Okay. Let's assume. Let's just play the devil's advocate. Let's assume this voter fraud is happening, right, at the local levels. Because I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So I'm just going to give you the devil's advocate and assume it's happening. The first question I have is this really what convinced you that these parties that are in power, whoever's doing it, are corrupt and are committed to being in power at the expense or regardless of the people's will, and they'll do anything they can to stay in power? And second of all, the very reason why they're still in power, the very reason why nobody can challenge their authority is because they always whip up these bullshit partisan nothing burgers that divides people on one of the two sides, and people end up saying, well, I gotta go vote for the Democrats to stop those Republicans, or I gotta go vote for those Republicans to stop the Democrats. Nobody really thinks about, why don't we starve the machine and vote for third parties and actually not vote for either of these two parties, because that's actually going to be the only way that whatever corruption is going on, whatever it is, and I don't know the extent of it, can actually be challenged and actually be stopped. Because the thing is, even if you prevail in eliminating all voter fraud in America, guess what? These parties are still corrupt, and they're still going to do shady, dirty things that undermine American democracy. So that's my view.
Agreed.
Hey, wait. All right, Sparky's
agreed.
Not agreed.
Not agreed.
All right,
the political parties aren't necessarily the problem.
Sparky first, please. Then we'll go.
Oh, jeez, I haven't said anything all the time, but now I got to shut up.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Go D-Job.
You know what? I'm actually going to cede. I'm going to cede my time to
No,
CTV, allow
Sparky,
him to
take
get
it.
into this.
That's a
Okay,
gentleman.
look, when it comes down to it, when it comes to the third party, dude, I like that you're actually advocating for a third party, although I'm pretty sure the third party that you would want to go to vote for is probably not one anyone American would want to. When it comes down to it,
Let him have a try. Let him have a try.
third party candidates are always freaking cringeworthy. Let's look at Joe Jurgensen, who is really just a progressive pretending to be a libertarian, and let's look at that previous dumpster fire the libertarians put forward and couldn't even tell you what was going on in foreign relations. What is Aleppo? Anybody? Look, the libertarians and most of these third party candidates are just so engulfed with something as asinine, which should already be legalized, like marijuana, that they forget, real actual topics in America. When it comes down to it, why are we questioning this? Because it happens every election cycle. It just happens to be on this time. It is actually the right going, hey, we got some election fraud. We need to look into it. Now, some people go a little bit off board. Notice I have not said that it was changed the election by any means whatsoever, but I say that any election fraud should be considered bad. Just like most of us, I would think that we would agree on things like racism in any shape, way, or form is bad. But, of course, we've got people here playing team sports. I am looking out for America, the big thing, and y'all are looking out for America, your team. So look at it under that deal. We can sit there and go, hey, theft is bad. We should do things to deter theft, to make theft even harder. Things like that. Just apply that. Instead of say theft, say voting. It's very simple. And when it comes down to gun purchases, I've already come out and said background checks should not exist because it is a right. But when it comes to voting, I want an ID there because I want to ensure the security of the election. That is what I want it for. Just like the left will argue they want a gun registration for the security of gun ownership. I mean, that argument goes both ways. So the way it is.
Thank you, CTV.
The political parties aren't the problem in this country. The problem stem back to the creation of the Federal Reserve, but that's not the current topic. So, that's why I can't agree with no communists, not fucking ever. And that's just kind of where I'm at.
Well, regardless of the issue of the Federal Reserve, if we're talking about democracy and voting and stuff, it stands that the number one issue is the two-party duopoly. And I agree that so far the third-party candidates that we've seen have not been promising, and that's fine. But why can't a better third-party candidate take their place? It's the only shot the American people have to get out of this infinite loop of
the only way that
deception.
you're going to be able to do that is to get a more educated voter, regardless of how the political systems are set up.
I would
right?
support the emergence
Right?
of like a
Oh
third
my
party.
God,
The
Maddie.
problem is
Man,
that
come on, Maddie.
CTV,
There was a
please
direct
listen-
question
listen
answer
to
back and
me.
forth. I ain't said nothing. I'll fucking, you know what? Fine. Go ahead. Let me know when the rest of y'all want some education, and then I'll educate y'all, and then y'all can talk about that, okay?
Okay. No, you know what, CTV? I would like some education, please.
Oh, now we want some education.
I was wrong. I'm sorry.
All right, Redneck's been holding his hand up for a while. I'll go through it.
Hey, Redneck, go ahead, buddy.
I mean, the reason I agree with what's your name, Leninist? What is your real name? here on the-
Haas. My name's Haas.
Haas. Okay, I apologize for not referencing your name directly. Haas states, I agree with him from the aspect of corruption. I think both sides played the cards stacked the cards against us citizens. I am all for a third party, a fourth party, a fifth party. I'm for fucking whoever wants to run. I don't believe in a right and a left. I believe in America first. Point blank, that's who I am. That's what I've always been. You can call me a nationalist, you can call me whatever you want, but if you can't love yourself, you can't help nobody else. And we don't love ourselves. We hate each other. We're pointing fingers. We're screaming and yelling. We're blaming each other for what our government is doing. And I prefaced the intro that way. I said, I'm tired of the left and this right bullshit. The government themselves didn't listen to any of us. Those of you on the left who think you won this time, you didn't. He's not passing all the things you want passed. He's only passing enough to get by, to use your vote. And it happens every 4 years this way. And I'm tired of it. I am done with it. And as the old boomer in the room, Maddie, who's been through many of these, I voted Democrat and Republican throughout my life. It's bullshit. You guys just think you got something special going because you're young and it's all in the moment. When you get to my age, you'll realize how fucked it is right now. This is bad. It is not good for any of us.
We'll go Maddie,
I'm
then
kind of
Cutzley.
old.
Maddie, anything?
Yeah, I'm kind of old.
Okay.
But yeah. So I think I wanted to respond to the desire for like we need to amplify third parties, and I wish we had more parties. So in like theoretically, I agree because I think that adds more ideas. It makes it so that people aren't just defaulting to what they think is the less of two evils. However, the way that third parties in this country have gone about actually building coalitions and assuming power, it seems to be that they only emerge and force during national elections. And I think I would take them a lot more seriously, and I would take their commitment to their platform a lot more seriously if they focused at the local level and actually started winning in like local elections and then building a groundswell from there. Because historically, that's what we've seen actually be effective in terms of then bubbling to the surface, building up a foundation of support that puts you in a prime position to do well at the national level. Thus far, I have not seen those parties doing that at a big scale.
The issue is that it's those contested areas that you have to actually build in local elections. And when you try to run a third party in a contested area between red versus blue, whichever side you're on, they're going to say, oh, you're just helping the Republicans. And why don't you do this in an already blue area? If you only build a base in the let's say you're a leftist, if you only build your base,
but local elections are nonpartisan.
So, but they're usually. But what do you mean?
They're very partisan.
Yeah, they're partisan.
No, they're not.
Well, no. Okay,
yeah,
no.
I don't understand what you mean.
Wait, let's let Maddie clarify or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, clarify.
Yeah, so it depends on the state. It depends on so big cities. Yes, it is partisan. However, for local elections, for my hometown of Los Altos, California, when you run for city council, when you run for mayor or anything else, and this isn't just like at a small town, you don't run as a Democrat or as a Republican.
I don't know why you're laughing. She's right.
You run as a nonpartisan.
No, I'm sitting here looking because I was just in Los Altos. I was just in Los Altos, so to hear her talk about oppressions.
You were in Los Altos,
holy
California?
Shit!
Lynn and Chandler,
I was just there. I was eating at Los Altos Grill every night for the past month and a half.
Oh, that's a great place to eat. That's a great choice.
Wait a second. So, if local elections are nonpartisan,
that's my hometown.
Then how could they possibly benefit a third party running up to a general? How would that be a form of building
because
a
what
base?
you see it as a launching pad. So when you establish yourself as a nonpartisan, what you're able to do then is effectively govern in that position. But then say if you're like a city council person who then wants to make the leap to maybe run for an open house position or run for a state, more likely like state assembly or state senate, when you have that resume of success where you're saying, hey, we were able to do this in this local town and this is what we are able to do. I'm proposing that we bring this to a statewide level, or like this is a blueprint for what's possible. And then you build those relationships and you are able to then build a groundswell of support. I just don't see that.
Well,
and maybe that's my own
experience, but experience shows that the
happening.
real backbone of being able to build national coalitions and national movements is, maybe local is a bad word, but when it comes to congressional districts and things like that, places that are going to be contested between Republicans and Democrats, third parties have to have the backbone, they have to have the balls to be able to risk the other side of them politically winning. So if you're going to contest the Democrats from the left, you have to have the balls to risk the Republicans winning. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be building the necessary base in middle America, in the Midwest, which is actually what you need to win this country, not the coastal elites of California and New York City.
Well, I know my
that's where the
from
battle
Minnesota,
is.
so.
And here's the thing is liberals don't know how to talk to people in the Midwest, and they don't know how to win any victories among America's flyover states and rural people. So this is really the issue we're dealing with when it comes to a third party.
I knocked doors in Iowa. I knocked doors in. Sorry, one last thing. Just
one last thing. We're wrapping up, and we'll go to closing thoughts after. So.
Yeah, because I agree with you. I think the Midwest in particular should be seen as like the battleground. That is where we should be focusing our resources. And I say that as someone who has spent a lot of time in the Midwest. So while I'm from California, my fiance is from Minnesota. My entire dad's side of my family is from rural Illinois. Like we used to have like a little bit of farmland right outside of Peoria, Illinois. I spent a lot of time there. I went to Iowa during the primaries and knocked doors. So I've talked to these people. But the thing is like I don't see a third party ever winning a national seat until they have at least won mayorships in a few significant cities or where they've got any sort of like meaningful representation at state legislatures, because that tends to be the signal for whether or not something is gaining steam at the national level. So I don't think that it's realistic to assume that there's going to be any sort of meaningful uprising of like a third party and that it'll show at the congressional level before it shows at both the local and state level.
What about the case of, and I disagree with her, I don't like her, but what about the case of AOC? She didn't begin on.
I like you. Yeah, she's a Democrat.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about AOC. I don't know who. I don't really know you.
She's
so.
a Democrat.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't like her, but she, her whatever brand of the Democrats, she didn't begin by going to the local legislator. She went to get that seat for the congressional district in which she lives.
She contested, but that's not a third party, so that's not really relevant.
I know.
Definitely a different
I understand.
mindset,
I understand, but I'm saying only doing something like that gains national traction in our age of attention economy and in 2021. Doing all this local mayorship, like Shuama Sawant in Seattle went on to the city council. Literally nothing came of it. Like nothing actually was produced or resulted from that.
That's a massive miss.
I do want to say that Hans has a point here. It is true that knocking out someone like Joe Crowley and opening up with someone like AOC, who knows how to get attention in the modern information economy, knows how to communicate to a class of voters, the young people in particular, better than like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer do, much better, is extremely useful. But I would also say that her not having an experience. Yeah, I know, but the topic moved on. We're about to have closing statements. I will also say, though, that it is also true that her not having experience from going from a very local government up to that position means that she wasn't able to build effective political ties up to her getting into office, and that is something that has hobbled her for the first 2 terms of her being in office. She's been able to make up for it in a lot of ways through how popular she is with young people and make herself a national figure. But it's also true that somebody with local governmental experience would know how to maneuver the levels of government much better and would also have a lot more local governmental ties of other people who are going to come up with them. So I think that I do actually have a few problems with the AOC model when it comes to like governmental experience. But I do think that she was, I think it was very successful for her.
Cool. All right, we're gonna go into closing statements. Do you want to just count that as your closing statement, Dylan, or do you have more to?
Well, I that was not really. I would like a.
Okay. All right, we'll go around. All right, we'll go to CTV.
I don't want to go first.
Okay, all right, Mr. Geek.
I've waited this fucking long to talk. I can wait till the end. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you're right. All right, Mr. Geek.
I don't know. We're going to loop, but anyway. I'm going to address everything in one statement. All right. First of all, voting ID again. Not a solution for voter fraud. I don't know why we bring this up every time. It doesn't address. We can talk about voter ID when it's the topic. It wasn't. I don't know why we spent so much time talking about this shit. I wanted to go back on what Katsiv said at the beginning with the media influence in the election. Trump was covered non-stop. So if one person had more media attention than other, it was Trump. What else? The reason of this topic at the beginning, or at least I think, was the Cyber Ninja recount, which again is nothing but copying. There was already a recount done in Maricopa. There was already an audit done in the same county. Nothing was found. And again, I'm going to ask for people to. Oh, last thing that I wanted to address. We need to differentiate like local election and like national election. The process used in those 2 elections are not similar. You don't use the same process to treat like tens of thousands of ballots that you would use to treat to treat like 10,000. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Cutsleeve.
Yep. So, in concluding statements, I haven't heard any good argument for why we should oppose voter ID. I know voter fraud was the topic, but that's just kind of how the topic pivoted. I still stand by my claims that it's going to be more efficient for our country and our voting systems in the country, specifically Indianapolis, but all the 6 countries that implemented voter ID laws, they've all seen an increase in voting participation. So that's a reason why you want to vote. Decrease in like voter inconsistencies. That's the reason why you want to vote, to avoid these New York situations, to avoid California situations. Now, onto Mr. Geek's point, I do think there were some election secrecies before the election started. Although he's right that Trump got a lot of earned press, which is like press that you don't pay for. Though that press was bad. A coverage from I think it was from CNN covered that, maybe not CNN, but I remember someone reading that 93% of Trump's coverage was like just like bad, not false, but bad. Even if you want to say that that is deserved from Trump because he says a lot of stupid statements, I still think it does indicate a bias in the way presidency should be ran. I do think there was a lot of lobbyists on Biden's side. You can just see what happened to Bernie. And then the last thing I want to say is Kevin Costner literally lied to the FBI 17 times to try to spy on Trump's campaign. So if you're not going to say that I don't think that election fraud happened. Literally, people were voting twice for Biden. I don't think that's what happened. I think the election fraud started way before even one ballot came in. I yield.
Very much. Let's go to Redneck.
I could sit here and steel man everything that he just stated, but I mean, those of us that paid attention to the last election, that's what we saw. We saw corporate America colluding with any anti-Trump. Anything Trump was bad. Anything Trump was racist. Anything Trump was Russian collusion. It started before he took office. It still hasn't stopped.
True.
It's been the excuse used. It's been the excuse used from day one. The Dems are smirking and think they've got it made. And that game, I'm done playing. I'm tired of seeing this bullshit happening. All of you on the left that sit here on Twitch and stream, oh, we're the smartest people on earth. We know what's going on. Show us the proof. Mr. Frenchie over there, who should be outside fucking trying to help his country get their freedom back, instead is sitting here telling us that we need to give more authoritarianism and fascism to our government. I mean, let's just keep listening to these fucks tell us what we're going to do as Americans. I'm done with that. It ain't a right and left issue. This is an American issue. Corporate America, corporate machines, all of this stuff. Dylan even said it earlier. The corporation, yeah, the contractors that the Dems hired and or the Republican hired. There are places where you guys will sit there and say, oh, the Republicans cheated, and we'll sit there and say the Dems cheated. Both agreeing, but see, y'all just want to say, oh, well, we won, so there's nothing to do. Let's not fix anything. We start going down these little rabbit holes about bullshit, but nothing ever gets done. It's every 4 years, the same story. And I've watched it for almost 50 years. And I'm telling y'all can keep playing this game, but until you look at yourself in the mirror and say, who am I really voting for? Are they doing what we want as a whole, not just what you want on the right or what I want on the left? We're not going to get anywhere. And as far as Haas is concerned, I hope that he can get a chance to have his political ideology seen. Do I think it's going to win? Fuck no. But at least if he believes in it and he's an American and he believes it'll help America be a better country, that's what we're all supposed to want, right? Third parties, any party, I don't care. I just don't want to see this bullshit keep happening where we citizens are fighting each other over a corrupt government that's just going to tell us to fuck ourselves, which is what's happened this past election.
Thank you. I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but if we could steer away from personal attacks, that'd be just generally just try to keep that in mind. Let's go to
somebody personally.
I mean the Frenchie thing. It was that I don't know if it's necessarily being French isn't bad, but
it is bad.
Well, that is an opinion.
It is.
We all love France. Let's go to Has.
Not me. Can't stand French people.
Wow.
I did not come very prepared on the issue of voter fraud, but then again, it's not very much of interest to me specifically, but I do think the divisions in America are very real divisions, and my goal is to focus on creating a united American politics so that people will stop fighting each other instead of focusing on the true enemy, which is corporate America and the 1%. That's right.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Sparky.
All righty. Look, no one has denied that voter fraud does not exist. Now, yet again, we've talked ad nauseum. You know, what's acceptable fraud? I'll say no fraud is acceptable. But look, as much as I like to pick on the French, I still love the French. So I'm not definitely not going to say anything bad about Geek. Geek seems to be a pretty chill guy. But look, we could go ad nauseum. Oh, well, they always have to say, everyone has to say, oh, it's not enough. You know, it didn't change the results of the election. And the fact that we have to put that qualifier in there is truly the problem. Part of that is because our tech overlords have determined that we will all be deplatformed if we happen to say beyond the shadow of a doubt or something like that this happened, because they'll dub it as misinformation, which, my God, this country was founded on all kinds of misinformation going unchecked. And now the current presidency is actually talking about, oh, well, we're getting people deplatformed off of areas like Facebook because they are passing misinformation. There's a lot of un-American things going on. Voter fraud is part of it. And if we can wipe out some of this un-Americanism in America, I think we can make America amazing. I yield.
Sounds good. Let's go to Maddie.
Yeah. Quickly clarify, like, the reason I critique America and our systems as much as I do is because I love our country and I see so much potential in what this country could be for so many people, not just wealthy white people. It's like when they say, you know, you have great friends when they not only give you compliments and support you, but they also give you shit and call you out on your shit. Like, that is what I see myself doing, and anybody who wants to improve our institutions. In the case of voter fraud, or, you know, making sure it doesn't happen, again, I think voter ID is potentially well-intentioned. However, it's cost prohibitive, and it's also prohibitive for those who are already disenfranchised and maybe don't have access to the documentation or information that they need in order to procure an ID. If we made the process of issuing driver's licenses free and more streamlined so that every single citizen would have access to it, then I think that would be fantastic. And then I think totally reasonable to have some sort of voter ID law, but that's unfortunately not the case. And so I think that requires us to look at what else we can do. It's also looking at whether or not voter fraud is this widespread issue. No one's denying that voter fraud exists. However, the instances of voter fraud are so small that I don't think it warrants the kind of sweeping legislation that we're seeing happening, particularly in government-controlled state legislatures, and that's presuming to protect voter fraud. I wish that a few instances of abuse of a system, I wish the right-leaning people on this panel took that same attitude for, like, oh, well, we need sweeping legislation when there are just a few instances. I wish that took the same attitude with gun violence as they do with voter fraud, because one actually results in, like, the deaths of people and one doesn't. But that's a conversation for another time. I love America. America great. America good. France pretty good too. Go America.
Certainly. Okay, we'll go to Dylan.
For somebody to want me to get voter fraud, not to get get voter ID, I would need to be proven that voter fraud is a significant enough issue for us to deviate time, attention, political capital, money, and of course, actually putting up, most important part, putting up barriers between people and the vote. And in this conversation, the biggest example someone brought up to me, as of recent, was Sparky, the 157,000 test ballots, which we all acknowledge would not have been stopped by a voter ID. And voter ID laws that have been passed on the state level have been ruled unconstitutional on many occasions because of their racist background. We all acknowledge there is a racist history to voter ID laws, and we also acknowledge that there are a population in the United States without voter IDs. And the voter IDs that get approved, like Texas, for example, will get sometimes be approved. They'll approve the ones that have majority white populations, but not the ones that have majority minority or black populations. Great examples in Texas, they approved of gun licenses being used as voter IDs, but not student IDs being used as voter IDs, which is overwhelmingly used by young people who are overwhelmingly left-leaning, and also used by majority minority population, about 50%. So if somebody wants me to be in favor of a new type of regulation, definitely it's something as integral to the United States and to any country as its electoral system, you're going to have to give me a pretty damn good justification. So I have not been giving that justification during this talk. And the new Arizona audit just came out to show that the ideas that there was widespread voter fraud in Arizona that could have affected the results of the election was untrue. Out of 3 million ballots that they looked at, only 200 may have had a problem. Only 200 may have had a problem. It'll end up maybe being around half of that. So I don't know. Doesn't seem like a significant problem for me. Seems like post-election cope. Hope everybody's doing okay.
Thank you. That certainly sounds like politics. Okay, let's go to CTV.
Well, it's my understanding, right, that France already has voter ID. Okay, so, I don't know why you'd advocate for something opposite than you already have, but you know what? That's cool, right? Maddie, right? Voter ID hasn't got nobody, or the ability to vote. You wish it was taken as serious as guns. Da da da. I think we pretty much fought a whole war over that idea under the guise of slavery, right? So that black people could vote, and we go on from there, right? So, there's strides being made. It's funny, during that exact same period of time, that's when the 14th Amendment was introduced, right? And then we get this whole language of what it means to be a citizen, right? So then nobody has bothered to even break down the federal and the state levels with regards to the laws that are being put in place, right? So with that being said, we'll take it from the top here. There needs to be some type of federal legislation that gets everybody underneath the same banner, right? And voter ID would be one of those things that would allow all of the people across the United States, specifically when it comes to federal elections, to be able to participate in the system and everybody know that everybody's a citizen of the country, especially considering we are currently armed with the knowledge that there are 20 million illegal immigrants here in this country. And I don't want somebody that's not a citizen of my country participating in my election. Call me selfish, right? So with that being said, I haven't heard any justification from the left side at all that it shouldn't be done, considering we all have to have driver's licenses, and I've got, concealed weapons permits, and all these other different things that we have just to be able to interact in society. But it's this one issue, and Redneck laid it out pretty pointed earlier when he said, poor black folks can't go out and get a fucking ID, right? That's the justification you hear from the left. I didn't hear anything any different tonight. And the utopia, Haas, that you'd like to go with, man, it's just not going to be plausible here in the United States unless you definitely increase your level of knowledge of how the American system actually works. Because, the most comparable thing to other nations that you would have here in the United States would be another state, right? So, each one of the states is sovereign under our system. You can check the 10th Amendment to where, most of these issues get kicked back to the states. So, I realize it's a unique system. It is kind of complicated. But when it does come to the voting thing, it's pretty simple, especially electorally, based off of the census and population, which is why these numbers also matter. But without going into, the entire history and basically putting on a whole educational spell for everyone here on the panel and the audience, suffice it to say that voter ID is a good idea with regard to federal elections. There's no reason that people that are United States citizens can't have voter ID.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's the end of the first topic. I think there's a lot of different places we could have gone with it, but maybe that's for future discussion for sure. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For those who just recently tuned in, I'm Binks. This is the Hippy Dippy Super Sunday show. We're going to go into our next topic pretty soon. By the way, for those who may be wondering, hey, how do I get on these panels? How do I become a panelist? How do I become one of those little squares on the screen? Danabo, who is the booker of the Hippy Dippy podcast network, I guess, is very busy booking shows, and he does it all the time, all week, trying to bring these shows to you. If you want to be a part of it, you can go to his server at the Danabo Discord server. You can also support him at shellshockcbd.com. Promo Danabo, 10% off. Is that right? 10%? Okay. Yeah, so support Danabo. Follow them. Follow everybody on the server. Aircraft Sparky, CTV, Has, Redneck, Geek, Maddie, Cutsleeve, even though he turned his camera off. Appreciate you all coming on. I had fun. I don't know about you guys. I had fun. So we can go to the second top. This is we call it the palate cleanser. It's sort of just like, okay, let's exhale. Okay, some people hate it, some people like it. I like this topic though. Dana gave me a good topic. Who was the real winner of the Hippy Dippy Friday show, the Rumble?
CTV.
And this speaks to very specific people. This is open, by the way, no opening statements. You dive in.
Didn't we have a different topic before this?
No, we have one after
palate
that.
cleanser.
Yeah, this is just a short
palate
little,
cleanser.
it's like a little mid topic.
I didn't hear that. Y'all were cutting in and out. Sorry. Driving.
Yeah.
All good. You're driving. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like CTV has something to say about this. So if he could kick it off.
Well, I think it was obvious. I'm more curious about how everybody else in the room feels about it. I obviously have my own take on it, but I don't feel like it would probably be like the most justice for me to lay it and just flop it out there on the table first, right? Maybe let the people get warmed up a little bit, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Fair enough.
Well, as a participant of the Hippy Dippy last Friday night, I would have to say the winner is Dylan. Dylan is actually the winner of the Hippy Dippy, and it's because he has now got another, which is going to be record-shattering future viewer numbers when Demon Mama and Destiny actually do tie in for the Hippy Dippy Championship. But who should have won? You know, I was kind of split. Dr. Heend, I feel, did not get enough time on screen. And I firmly believe that CTV, I think that it is that the people's champion for the Hippy Dippy would have been either Dr. Heend out or CTV. They both did great. I think Heend just didn't get enough time on screen. I would have loved to have seen him be able to go a little bit further.
Yeah. I think I agree with the Heem part because I really wanted to see more of him. I also really wanted to see more of Josie Rose because I contend that she is the freaking smartest person on Twitch. She's so good, and I was heartbroken when it was like when they eliminated 3 people at once. I was really bummed out when Josie left because I thought she was going to make it all the way. But I mean, CTV he's a people's champion. There's no disputing that. And CTV, I think you could have run away with it had you shown up in your famous Speedo. Because that's just giving the people what they want.
I suggested that to him. To him off screen, yeah. Because he was talking about possibly doing it poolside. And I said only if he does it in the red, white, and blue Speedo.
I imagine poolside Speedo with maybe like a pina colada or like a fancy cocktail, or even if you want to go full America, just a good old fashioned American beer. That how can you say no to that? That's selling an image, and that's what the people want. CTV, but
did you see the promo that I did ahead of time?
Yes, I did.
I think we all saw it.
It's very good. It's very good.
Listen, CTV is obviously the winner of this Hippy Dippy. He might not have the belt, but he was the obvious winner. No shot.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well,
just I guess.
I will say the one thing that I thought was funny was that I left before Hunter Avalon, who contributed like next to actual nothing during the conversation, like that I was a part of. Right. As a matter of fact, all he really was a good bouncing board for a setup meme. Right. And he totally fell right for it. And then like, boom, identity politics right off the bat. It's like, that's why that shit's bad. But, you know, little bit of thought, forethought gets put into these things for the audience's benefit. Somehow it gets lost on the judges. What are you going to do at the end of the day, right? But what is, in fact, true, moving on from here, is that everyone knows what's coming up in the future, right? Everybody knows what's coming up. It's going to
coming
happen.
up?
Yeah.
By the way,
What is it?
You
What
already
is
know
it?
we're on the hunt.
The is
hunt?
it what's
Oh
it
yeah.
called?
The wolf pack is?
Oh, the hunt
Oh,
for what?
we're on the hunt for the belt. It's going to be sitting in this
Oh.
background at some
What's
point.
it so called? Like Hunty Dunty or
Well, everyone's commented except for Mr. Hippy Dippy himself, Dylan Burns. So I'm curious what he has to say.
Well, Redneck
So-
hadn't commented.
Redneck
Oh, and
too.
redneck, yeah.
Other Rednecks at CTV. I'm sorry. We can get to Redneck.
Hickory Dickory, the Hickory Dickory Championship. There we go.
I mean, I think I didn't get a chance to watch it because I've been driving for 3 days from California back home to Wisconsin. But I heard through the political grapevines that Dylan pulled his bullshit again and colluded and took it away from a conservative because he does that kind of shit. Dylan is a hypocrite, lying scumbag that tweaks all of his narrative hippy dippies into his own left-leaning wins, so he'll never be a true Vince McMahon. He can't do it because he's not fair enough. He just can't seem to swallow a conservative wearing the belt that actually earned it. And for once, CTV and me have to agree on one thing when it comes to this. You won, big dog. I'm going to rewatch it again. I tried to watch some of it. I was laughing too hard. You based the hell out of him. I'm proud of you. Dylan, you're a scumbag fucking liar. You should have gave him the belt.
Wait, I think the fact that he's
Hey,
unfair
look,
makes
this
him
might be the
more-
first time that Redneck and Demon Mama have been on the same page. But I will also I'll gotta throw out there that yeah, Vince McMahon is known for his fairness. I don't remember that in any wrestling book I've ever read or any biography
he
about
plays
Vince
both
McMahon.
sides of the fence, Dylan. Come on. He plays both sides. Come
How
on.
long did
You
it take
don't.
Vince
You
McMahon to
don't.
crown a black champion?
Bro, he literally uses villains from both sides of the fence. Come on. I'm saying that.
Look,
that's what I'm saying.
Anyway, the thing is, there's only been 2 champions. You can't go after me when there's only been 2 champions in the history of the belt,
Both
right?
lefties.
And you want to know what?
Both
And you want to know?
lefties.
You're gonna call Destiny a leftist?
Yeah, we're not
Infrared.
Yeah, I do.
Infrared.
I do.
Infrared.
So much
Infrared.
sense.
Wait. Let me ask. Infrared. Is Destiny a leftist?
No, but he's a liberal. He's liberal.
He's liberal, but he's not a leftist. So let's not categorize him as a leftist of some sort.
He,
Okay?
like,
Anybody
shuts
other
on
than me
leftists
is a
all
socialist.
day.
He's not a communist. He's not a Marxist-Leninist, a Dengist,
He's
or
definitely
any
not a
of them.
conservative, though.
You're
Okay?
anti-Ravelon.
Anyway, look, you want to know who won the Hippy Dippy Rumble? It was
The
me.
viewers.
I won the Hippy Dippy Rumble. You want to know why? Because I smashed my viewer record numbers. We went from 2.8K to 3.6K in live viewers, and that was just on our channel. The after show caused so much commotion that people have been talking about the belt ever since it. You want to know what the next day was on political Twitch? Denims was reacting to it. Chud Logic was reacting to it. Everybody and their fucking daddy was reacting to it. That's because I put together good content. I put together good shows. And so the real winner of the Hippy Dippy Rumble isn't whoever won the fucking belt. It's me. Because I got the views. I got the money. I got the big stream.
Called it.
That's who won.
Called it.
Okay? The vicious
The
businessman.
corporate cock. He got it. He just acknowledged it.
No.
You
The
corporate cocksucker.
thing is, I'm not the corporate cocksucker. I'm the corporation which you need to suck off to get on my show. Okay? So in this analogy, you're the one who needs to be sucking, not me.
That's the American dream. Is
That's the
becoming a
American dream.
corporation.
Yeah,
Becoming a
okay.
corporation.
Can I throw this out there? If Dylan is Vince McMahon, I feel like Redneck could be a contendable Stone Cold Steve Austin right now. I think he's kind of
Oh,
given that.
easy. Oh,
I lived.
easy.
Hey. Here's a funny story. I actually lived right next to his sister in Texas.
That's pretty cool.
Was she a
like
good
that.
neighbor?
Yeah, they were great people. They were cool. Her husband's
Awesome.
a dentist. He partied every Thursday
awesome.
night.
Hell
Awesome.
yeah. That sounds great.
I can't wait for Vadim to clip this and see, Dylan does not care about the integrity of the show. He is once again an evil businessman. Look. But I will
Like a
say
good
about that
neighbor.
whole thing is like,
Redneck was there.
ultimately, if anybody is legitimately looking at that show and is walking away from it, thinking that was like the real world, or walk away from panels thinking this is the real world, you're the type of people that need to be explained that Star Wars isn't a documentary to you. You're the type of person who watches like a documentary about World War II, and at the end of it says, "Man, someone needs to do something about this Hitler guy. You're that person, okay? You're clueless." People shot promos for it. Vosh was alleging that I broke into his home and stole the belt out of his physical home. I was wearing a elegant robe and and I had a wine glass and all this different stuff. There was evil music in the background. If you can't just enjoy performative art and what was going on there, and you think that all of that from start to finish was the real world, then you're clueless.
Yo, Dylan, you got to stop subtweeting Demon Mama right now.
I'm not subtweeting Demon Mama. I'm not Demon Mama. Demon Mama is actually like really intelligent when it comes to these things, and she's known about like Hippy Dippy for a while. I'm subtweeting certain section of my audience. That's who I'm subtweeting.
All right. Well,
Real
my yep. Go ahead, Geek.
Okay, I just wanted to add two things. First of all, since I'm working with Dylan, I'm going to leak some backstage secret. We had a meeting with the PR department, and we all agreed that it's all Danabo's fault. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I feel kind of proud because I put the design like on the belt. I made the design, so technically people are fighting over my work. So I'm kind of cool with that.
Yeah, here's a question. Infrared, do you want a shot at the belt?
That's a good question.
I don't know what it means. I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't worry about it.
It's a kind of debate competition, sort of, where the winner gets.
Well, explain it. Stop right now. Like the reality here is that anybody that, and perhaps maybe this is just a selfish part of me, right? And I'm sure that every other person that has been participating in the Twitch politics community specifically, right? Because I could give two fucks about YouTube, right? I'm here on Twitch, right? So the Twitch politics community, right? Like people that are competing in the Hippy Dippy should be a part of Twitch politics and its community, right? I don't think you should be able to allow YouTube content creators to be able to do fuck all because they're not here on Twitch. I realize that you upload this content to YouTube, but it is aired on Twitch. Therefore, the participants should be in the Twitch politics community. If they're not, then
I'm
what the fuck
from
they're doing?
Twitch.
It's
I
almost
don't
like
stream on
it's
Twitch.
almost like WWE and WCW, ECW. Like there's different platforms. Like that's kind of.
I don't stream on YouTube. I stream only on Twitch.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay,
Because-
all right. We're gonna give
because
Redneck the last
clearly-
word.
Because clearly YouTube is more like WCW, right? It's like, or ECW. It's like the lesser league.
So,
Redneck.
I haven't streamed a lot for probably the past 4 or 5 months. I think it is. There's been a lot of personal stuff going on. When Dylan talks about performative art, let me be clear. I know the projected image that you guys all have is he's a crazy old fucking man who screams a lot. I'm animated. I love fucking banter. I love to piss and moan and bitch and cry and whine about everything the same way that you guys do as well. So don't forget that a lot of this is bullshit. But ultimately, and I've said this on Dylan's stream many times, and everybody says, oh, so I'm going to say it early so that way y'all know I'm being real, and this is the palate cleanser. I hope every one of y'all are successful in your endeavors. I hope every one of y'all are safe. I hope every one of you guys live your life to your fullest. Take away the bullshit and the banter that I give on the fights that we have. If you ever need somebody to call over mental health or any other thing that affects you, I am a veteran who suffers from an anxiety disorder, and I also suffer from a heart condition. So forget all, I mean, this is me being as pure and real as I can. I am not about continuing this banter the way it's been for the past almost 2 years. I'm done with that. If you guys want to have the game, I'll play it, but I would prefer for us to actually sit down and talk about how we can combine our talents to make our world better for all of us, not just one side or the other. I truly am. That's who I truly am as a person. That's not just redneck. That's really what I want to push out there, and that's the new message for the new year. So that's your palate cleanser for tonight.
Cool.
It's already happening in the Infinity Acre Wood, Redneck. You need to just show up sometime, brother. We need to talk.
I was
Yes,
scared when
we
I
do.
gave Redneck the last word. I'll be honest, but he brought it home. That's sort of a nice thought. So
That was
I think
extremely wholesome.
pretty wholesome. Okay. So would
I
you
weigh
guys?
about 240. I try.
Oh, would you guys be okay for like a 5-minute break? So I can smoke a
Yeah.
cigarette. That's cool.
Sure, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
cool.
If y'all,
intermission.
if you're, hey, whoa! If y'all are taking 5-minute breaks, then y'all gotta watch me stand up out this window and piss.
Oh, well,
I prefer
I'll
not
turn the
to,
camera
but
off
you know.
first. Okay, I'll be right back.
And you guys are all leaving.
So with that in mind, I am going to switch some things over real quick. Let's see. This is where I am right now. I'm going to take a quick 5 minute.
Bruh,
Let
Dylan,
me-
What?
you compared yourself to Vince McMahon, right? You
Uh-huh.
said, you specifically said, when's the last time he gave a black person a championship? Now,
How
in
long
the
did it take him to give him a black person the championship?
Right. Now,
Yeah.
Dylan, since you did this to yourself, I'm going to point out the obvious fact that in your 2 championship bouts, not a single black person.
Yep.
won.
True. Wait,
So-
that's not true. That's not true. Destiny voted for Biden. Didn't think of that, did you?
Oh my
Didn't think of
gosh.
that. You didn't think of that. No, boom.
Black.
Damn. You don't got an answer for that one.
I
Conservatism did it again.
totally got crushed. Dang, so you went through that N-word drama for nothing. You should have just said he voted for Biden.
Look. Yeah, why didn't he? Sorry for him. Oh, he didn't vote for Biden up at that point, did he? Took him a while.
Dude's a time traveler.
Bosch also voted for Biden. So actually the first ever Hippy Dippy champion was black. But I mean, obviously there's a representation problem on Twitch, 100%. So if anything, you're just proving I'm like Vince McMahon even more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that that comparison was accurate.
Well, let me ask you. Who do you think is the person on Twitch who is black who could take the championship?
Irrelevant.
Where you do? Yeah, well, the problem with Irrelevant, we've been trying to schedule him for like 20
Yeah.
years and he never comes on.
Never mind. You did have Trihax. Trihax was one person, but he's not really much of a debater. But I feel like either or Tyler Blumman. I think Tyler Blumman.
Tyler Blutman is not going to be invited to another program ever.
But what happened?
What's up,
Is there
guys?
something?
Yeah, it was a lot of misgendering.
Wow.
I think honestly, it would probably be
This next one's gonna get heated. You know, this Wuhan stuff.
True. Yeah.
Like, this is where all the disagreement's gonna come from.
More of like a counterpoints type, or like. Jesse Gambit could also.
I mean, you'd have to get to a position, but the thing is with these people, they have to get into a position to challenge for it, right? Like right now, there's a lot of people who can challenge for the belt. It could be Demon Mama. Demon Mama obviously has justification to challenge for the belt. It could be
Hunter Avalon.
Hunter Avalon is somebody who I would think 100% has justification to challenge for the belt. I don't think he would, but he has
I wonder what the libs are gonna say.
Vosh could, but
Are they gonna be for or against it? I don't know.
Zero integrity whatsoever when it comes to Hippy Dippy Championship. I know this is something we can all agree on.
I was thinking.
John Stewart.
What about Mr. Redacted? Did he ever?
He's a big liberal. He agrees with it.
Mike from TV. I have tried to get into one of these things so many times, and every time it's like a month-long negotiation that always just ends up with no, and then and like we did it twice, and then Danabo tried it on his own a third time, and then that also failed. We tried to make it happen with Vosh multiple times, me once, me a second time.
Someone in the Discord, tell me what Fauci emails are. I don't know what those are.
Obviously he's definitely not going to.
What is Fauci emails?
I think there's not many people I could get him to debate. When he does debate, it's like this recent stuff with Hunter Avalon. Like it just happens spontaneously. There's not like much that's set up.
What do they say?
And then obviously you've probably tried it, but have you? I would also be curious about Lauren Southern. We tried it.
Oh, he was lying.
I don't think she'd be interested in like a round table or any of that stuff. She would be interested in one-on-one with somebody. If I could set up a one-on-one with her and like Destiny Vosh or anybody, like yeah, I'd do it. But the thing is, a lot of these people are for example, there's a lot of people who will just like completely ignore these types of requests. Like Steven Crowder obviously did it for Sam Cedar. Jackson Hinkle, who's the guy who debated Vosh, is doing it for me. Other people, the people just do it all.
Hold on, I gotta
It's
defend
easy to
Jackson.
Ignore it. So that's what I'm pretty sure. Like definitely when you're a much smaller content creator, that's what most of these people will just do.
Yeah,
All right,
Jackson, he's focusing on like big kind of like big influencers, you know, like bigger, more people with bigger audiences, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, but the thing is that bothers me is that if you are somebody who like is concentrating on like a really hardcore foreign policy issue, and then you specifically go and talk to people who like don't know like shit about foreign
Yeah, but
policy, like Destiny doesn't know.
but weren't you the one who prepared Vosh for that one?
I sent him like he asked for like a few DMs, I gave him a few DMs, but like besides that, not much.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Like I just sent him like an article or two. I was like, here's like an article that give you some
but
basic
he
history.
did get a lot of coaching from like a few people, you know.
Yeah, but how much can you really? I mean, that's like, for example, let's say I got cut sleeves or aircraft or Maddie or any people in this room, and it was like, okay, tomorrow you're gonna be debating this person, I don't know, any like person who's I don't know like read books on foreign policy on the Korean War and why America shouldn't have gotten involved or some random issue. Like, there's only so much you can do with an hour, like within 24 hours or even a week. And so like I feel like it makes more sense for like people who like regularly look into this stuff to be having conversations rather than like somebody doing like a Wikipedia quick search and a bunch of DMs. So it's whatever. But I don't at the
I
end of the
mean,
day,
one
like,
thing you have to understand about Jackson is that the place he's coming from over on YouTube is like he's actually working with like a lot of high level journalists and like so he's not really used to dealing with like political Twitch kind of debater people, you know? Like
well,
But also,
those
that
guys
should
on YouTube.
strengthen the argument then for getting people who are more content experts. Because if he's more regularly
Yeah, but yeah,
dealing with
it's
people like serious journalists, then I would think that the quality of the discussion would be amplified if he actually had like rather than just the big streamers, actually had people on that were more like dialed in to that specific.
well, I mean, it's his own
subject area,
it's
right?
his own personal choice. I think he just wants to focus more on people with like bigger audiences and focus more on like people that he specifically knows are more.
Yeah, and
kind of
I know you were
high-level
talking
guys.
I was watching your stream last night. I know you were talking about how you wanted to tag team a debate, and I would totally that would be pretty awesome. I don't know if you can convince him to do that, that'd be totally cool. I would
Oh,
help
one
out
more
wherever I
thing,
could.
guys.
well, the thing,
With Jackson, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, we could do a tag team, but I think we wanted to do Destiny and like David Pac-Man or
Yeah,
something.
it would probably be a bigger, like a bigger
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
at the end of the day, like the thing that gets me is Jackson like did a video about me like saying like this thing about like AOC's Twitter doesn't say much. We do a response, we go back and forth, and then it like evaporates. And the whole thing that started the whole like Vosh and him like whatever was me. Like Vosh asked me to come on. I gave him a few comments about like Syria, and then I left, and then Vosh talked a little bit more. Then he goes and debates Vosh.
But in
And I guess
his
the thing
mind,
is-
yeah, but in his mind, the whole dispute because he doesn't know who you are. The whole dispute was like him.
He did a video.
No. What I mean to say though is that the whole dispute, he just sees you and Vosh, and he sees you guys as like the same people. So for him, debating Vosh was like a catch-all for like in his view,
That
Vosh
doesn't make much
represented
sense.
like you in a way because you guys had the same side on the matter. So that's
Well,
that was
infrared.
in
Let's
his
say I
view.
debated some like random person on Marxist Leninism, and I think I did a good
But
job.
Vosh has been a random guy. Vosh is a very well-established
Well,
political
anyone.
debater.
So let's say I debated, I don't know, Caleb Maupin, and
Yeah.
then I could be like, I don't need to.
You're
talk to
doing it
Infrared. I
again,
don't need to talk
Dylan.
to anyone else.
Dylan, you're doing it again.
I think that would be fair. I think that would be fair. I wouldn't
This
really.
is what you do.
think
He
that's
asked you a
unfair.
simple question. That's all, and you start going in with a different example.
What do
to
you
change
mean?
it.
What
I'm being told by
He blatantly
backstage
said that
to
he
to
could be
move to the
exposed.
next
Please don't
topic.
Infrared, just don't contribute. Look, for me, I just think Jackson doesn't want to talk to me because I'm not a dude who doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to Syria. I think it's that simple. I mean, it could be anything else.
No,
I don't really care anymore.
no. I've talked to Jackson. Honestly, it's not the reason. The reason is that he thought, in his view, in his mind, which I kind of agree with myself, that whole debate was with Vosh. I don't think he wants to go further. I think he wants to pursue bigger things now. Like that was settled with Vosh in his view, you know. So that's also how I see it, and yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic before I get yelled at again. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the third topic. I think everyone is back and ready. Wuhan lab leak and the Fauci emails. We've kind of been doing this topic a lot. I just kind of wanted to give sort of the latest news. I just kind of read a CNN article today that said that from CNN that senior Biden officials are saying that the COVID lab leak theory is as credible as a natural origins explanation. I can give a link if anybody wants, but I think that's sort of where we're at with it. So we can kind of go. into opening statements with that. I'll go with Cutsleeve.
Right. So I don't know. No one can specifically know if the lab leak theory is true or not. And that brings me to my main issue. The main issue is like all the secrecy. It's the same thing I said in my first opening statement. What I'm going to push for on this platform is less secrecy in our government because secrecy breeds corruption. The fact that we don't know whether it's a weaponization from China or whether it was an accident is because of the secrecy. So what I'm going to advocate for is the removal of the secrecy of the China government, of the U.S. government, of all foreign governments. How you?
All right, Mr. Geek.
Can I go last?
Everyone wants to go last night. All right.
It's opening statements for fuck's sakes. Come on.
It's okay. We'll go to Maddie.
Yeah. Think like whether or not the origin of the coronavirus was in a lab, whether it was from, I think, what do they call the wet markets that China has, where you have all these like live animals being sold together, and whether it developed from that or it's like from bats. While I think like, sure, maybe we can dispute where the origins are, but I think that's really largely a distraction. And I think the fact that we're even like debating it or talking about it or making it this big deal is sort of a way for the right-leaning media to absolve the Trump administration for completely bungling the handling of the coronavirus when it first spread. And this is almost like a way for them to try to retroactively say, oh, but, you know, it was really this conspiracy from China and it was a lab leak and that was why all this happened. It's like, no, regardless of whether or not it emerged naturally or from a lab leak, that didn't prevent the government from instituting a national mask mandate in a timely fashion. That didn't prevent the government from implementing a massive national tracking and tracing program. It didn't prevent the government from actually taking this pandemic seriously until it came out that they had to. Like, whether or not the virus came from a sort of more natural origin or from a lab leak doesn't, like, over 600,000 Americans are still dead. And it had nothing to do, like, it was because of the government's bungling of, like, complete shit show handling of this virus then coming onto our borders. So, I mean, we can debate whether or not it came from what's it or wherever, or whether it's a conspiracy. But at the end of the day, like, I think it's all just a distraction to prevent, like, to try to absolve the Trump administration and government or Republicans largely from their handling of the pandemic.
Get her done. All right, let's go to Aircraft Sparky.
Wow, that was a nuclear take. Okay, so when it comes down to it, lab leak theory was plausible from the get-go. We have found that with the Fauci emails. Look, I'm old enough to remember a time when China was producing radioactive drywall, putting lead paint on children's toys. Look, incompetency and rushing to develop a product is the Chinese way. It's all about that wand, baby. So when people go, oh, well, that's misinformation because, you know, there's no proof. Well, here's the deal. It's a theory. It's an idea. It's hey, this could have happened. And at the end of the day, we're talking about a country that has literally came out and said, we are going to up our nuclear weapons if you get into investigating this. That right there is screaming nothing but guilt. Was it meant to be a weapon? No, that's a little ridiculous. Considering quality control in China is not well known to exist. When it comes down to it, this shouldn't be political at all, but for some reason it is. Matty Cakes wants to talk about something about how we should have instituted an immediate mask mandate across the country. There's this little thing called the Constitution that gets in the way. That's the reason why that didn't happen. Look, I will sit there and say that yes, the Trump administration did bungle the handling of the coronavirus response, and but I think my response would have been different in a way. Now, we were dealing with something that no one understood at the time. It was a brand new disease. It was a novel disease. But for some reason, this has become political. Look, the Chinese, they're prone to make mistakes just like anyone else. When you rush things, bad things happen. China has a good track record of rushing a lot of things and bad things happening because it SARS. Anyone remember that? Bird flu. Yeah, that's all China. And amazingly enough, it all originates around the Wuhan area. Now, did it come from a wet market? I've been all over Europe. I've been all over Asia. I've seen several wet markets. I've seen a lot of um, pretty unsanitary things, but it didn't result in a world pandemic. That doesn't mean that it could not come from that, mind you. I will admit, I don't know where it came from, but the fact that immediately when people started talking about ideas of lab leak, the media, the government was all like, "Oh, let's not go there." Why? That's what I think is more important is why are we allowing our government to bow to another government? I think that's the true problem. And thank you.
No, thank you. Let's go to Dylan.
So I think, honestly, and this is probably going to be the one time in history me and Hans see eye to eye on something. Uh, I think this is just the auspices and the a lot of it's the drum beating from a lot of people on the right, not based on the legitimacy of if this happened, but for a new Cold War with China. And that this is something of the drumbeat of the media and of a lot of established powers trying to beat the drums because they want to heighten relations with the other person that might create a not a unipolar world and make it a multipolar world and destroy that. And that scares a lot of people. And that honestly is what I believe a lot of this comes from. That's one side of it. On the other side, is it a possibility? I'm not a scientist. It could be, and it seems from the articles and all the information I've looked at that it seems to be being needing more eyes now than ever. But nothing I've seen has indicated to me, somebody who isn't a scientist, that this theory is at all more legitimate than the natural origins theory, which has been respected for a lot longer periods of time. And I think now it shouldn't be a period of time where we're like, well, no, this is the thing that we know this is the way it happened. This is people trying to find a conclusion that they ideologically agreed with, not them trying to find where's the actual origin. Is it natural? Is it from a lab? Is it from this? It feels like a lot of people trying to find whatever ending, whatever source this came from that they ideologically agree with, so they can point the finger at China instead of internally for the mistakes of the Trump administration, which led to the deaths of 600,000 working and God-fearing Americans. And so, yeah, that's how I view it. So besides the idea of this, like whether this theory has legitimacy, I feel the framing of recent scientific developments have been pretty dangerous.
Cool. Thanks. Let's go to CTV.
Well, it's obvious. Can you see it? Can you see it? Or are you lost in the forest and you can't see the trees because of the forest? That's the question you got to ask yourself whenever we're talking about a man-made virus, right? Escaping from a lab, right? The question that you're asking yourself is, should we be allowing scientists the ability to be able to do something that they can't do? This kind of goes back to the idea of Jurassic Park, right? Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. And the condescension from those that are in power and those that are in government or those that are in corporations speaking down from on high to us poor people down here as if we can't understand the complexities of some of these ideas is quite frankly those types of things that cause revolutions, right? So what really needs to happen is we need to know exactly where this thing came from. We need to know how this thing spread, and we need to understand that, like, pointing to one administration is only just being short-sighted. If you really want to understand what was going on, you got to look worldwide, right? And you've got to start taking some real ownership of what you are allowing to happen by way of your government, because there are people out there that may not understand that the thing that they are just trying to accomplish, they're just focused on whether or not they can do a thing. They're not actually focused on whether or not they should, right? So we'll see where this conversation goes.
We will certainly see. Let's go to Haas.
I think that the question of whether this virus was man-made should be investigated. But I think both sides have not actually been paying attention to the more probable question that deserves more attention, which is, why is there an assumption that, given the fact that in July of 2019, there was a very bizarre shutdown at the U.S. Institute for the the Institute of Infectious Diseases, there was a rise of so-called e-cigarette vaping product use, lung injuries. There was an early flu season. And furthermore, in March of 2019, the virus was detected in the sewers of Barcelona in Spain. I just think that people aren't paying enough attention to Fort Detrick. Now, I agree with Dylan that the Wuhan, specifically the Wuhan lab leak, is being used for a new Cold War against China. That's why we see establishment media, Jon Stewart and all of these people peddling this theory. It's why Biden is starting to ease into peddling this theory. And I think it's a distraction from the fact that there's a high probability, or at least it's worth investigating, whether this virus originated from the U.S. military. I'm not really convinced that it originated in Wuhan. I think that it was just first discovered in Wuhan by Chinese scientists.
Cool. Thank you. Let's go to Redneck.
I find it hilarious that our Leninist actually has the research showing 2019. That's what I was going to say. Dylan is mentioned. He's the foreign policy expert, yet he immediately rejects any kind of look into China and their atrocities that were going on in their own country, like with the Uyghurs and the uprising of westernization for Hong Kong and for Beijing. They were having riots in the streets. This all goes back to don't forget about the athletes who all got sick in China in 2019, that they kind of washed under the rug with these same symptoms. Whether this was man-made or out of the lab, I've said it a year ago. I believe this was a lab leak and it's man-made. Now we're seeing that Fauci even admitted that there was no, I forget the scientific term that they used to bring, to enhance something. I forget what he called. He claimed that there was none of that going on, but yet in NIH and in his own emails, he says, we got to get in front of this. We got to say, no, this ain't happening. Secrecies in our government, this is bad. And the fact is that 600,000 people die every year of a cold flu that starts out of Eastern Asia. Every year we lose upwards of almost 700,000 actually from attributed sicknesses based around lung, circulation, all of these side effects they want to call attributors or pre-existing conditions. I, for one, suffer from two of them. I got COVID. I for sure thought it was man-made, but it isn't going to sway me any other way of thinking. I don't believe the government can do anything for us. And I think that's where we have a big delta here. Two of you are arguing that it's one side of our government, it's all their fault, it's incompetence. They could have done something better. I'm going to wait for our conversation for both of you to prove. Please tell me what any government could have done to prevent the deaths from happening. Please. Right away. I mean, as soon as it was launched, I'm going to wait for y'all to tell me that during y'all's banter, what any government could do about a weapon that's been released and or a natural illness that comes out of the blue. What can you do when you have no history of it, right? No history of it, right? This was a brand new disease, right? I'm just saying, people, let's think past the little things in front of us, the little low-hanging fruit, and quit going one side or the other, because that game's not going to work tonight at all.
Yeah, I know everybody's ready to go. We have one more Mr. Geek.
Real quick, just to be sure. Does the rule apply that the last time we can talk about a topic is during the opening of the next one?
Correct. I didn't say that, but everyone, I didn't say it. I'm sorry, but that's true. That's usually how these work. Hope everyone's all right.
Yeah, you have to know the rule. All right. First of all, yes, I'm a Frenchie, but I love America. Most of the people I talk to on a daily basis live there. That's why I care about the election and the claim of voter fraud. If the idea that your country basically has stopped being a democracy and you're under dictatorship, I think that's important. It affects the life of people I care about. some people say that. Sorry, I'm trying to speedrun into this. Some people brought up that we have voter ID in France. Yes, we do, but what does that have to do with voter fraud? Again, voter ID doesn't stop voter fraud. Okay, that's it for this. No, one last thing. How can you talk about the freedom of my country where we literally just spent 1 hour arguing about how your country almost became a dictatorship? So please, and see you on the fifth wave. Okay, Lablik, circumstantial evidence is literally bullshit. I don't care about what you heard. I don't care about like one employee missing from one lab or some shit like this. What I care about is real evidence. We need to find them, we need to look at the virus. And everyone who looked at it found no evidence of main alteration, if you want. So when you design something, you tend to give it a purpose. And that's what scientists check when they look at the virus. And so far, they have found zero evidence that men intervened at any point. That's it.
Scientists get paid
Well,
to do research.
All right,
Okay.
let's start with Dylan
Oh,
because there
sorry.
was some activity.
Sorry, I
Someone
thought we
doesn't
all went.
understand peer review.
Okay.
Yeah, someone
so-
doesn't understand that you get paid to find something. Yeah,
Okay, let's go.
paid to find it. What they're paying for.
Dylan, it's Dylan time. Stop
Having
Dylan
fun,
time.
Binks? You having a fun, Binks?
Lovely, lovely.
Okay. So, I want to respond to the idea that I said I was a simp for the Chinese Communist Party as a joke. I don't think anybody can construe my political positions as a operation to cover up what's going on in Xinjiang or what's going on in Hong Kong. In fact, Redneck, I'm getting a horrible echo.
I might be cut sleeve. Okay,
Yeah.
you're good.
Okay. In fact, Redneck, if you go to my YouTube channel right now, I uploaded a video literally 4 days ago that talked about an old interview between some journalists from Al Jazeera and former translators for Deng Xiaoping. That was covering about what's going on in Xinjiang and what was going on in Hong Kong. That's 4 days old. So you cannot claim that I'm doing this as some weird simpage for the Chinese Communist
I'm using
Party.
what you did the past year and a half, bro. Your streams over the past year and a half have condemned,
what about
everybody? Have condemned everybody that said
Kong.
it was the lab leak.
Look, I don't know what you're. Look, my streams. Trust me, my streams have never been. Look, I think Infrared can attest to this. That I am not known for my extremely favorable views of the Chinese government. Nobody on this platform could ever construe that about me. I simply don't want to send my countrymen into a pointless
But you're taking the
conflict
side
and
of
Cold
China
War
over America.
with a. No,
You
I
are.
am saying no.
Your
I'm not.
argument-
I'm
your
saying
argument
I
you
do
laid
not
out.
want to send my countrymen into a pointless Cold War with another great power. I would rather us continue to trade and continue to develop ties and continue to have decent relations if possible.
But you didn't
if
agree
it's
on the
impossible,
tariffs, right?
then that's
Right?
Do I agree with which tariffs? Do I?
You didn't agree with the tariffs that Trump had on China, did you?
Yes, because those tariffs were ineffectual in doing what Trump wanted them to do. His tariffs were to bring back the American steel manufacturers. You want to know what it did? It didn't. In fact, if you compared economic growth at the time to just the steel industry in the United States, economic growth for the rest of the economy vastly outpaced what was going on with steel manufacturing. And if you look at
but
what
don't
happened
you
when
understand there's going to be a lot of setup for
let
that
me finish. I'm
industry?
responding to like Redneck multiple times.
Yeah, but
and
you're using that
this
as
is
but you can't use steel there.
You'll get it after
but we're
CTV.
talking about the steel. I'm talking about Trump's tariffs.
No,
He did a
you're
steel
going down
tariff.
in one little rabbit hole. The whole thing was trade. Period.
Okay,
I just
which
said trade.
tariffs then? You said tariffs.
Oh my
There's
God!
But many
Dylan,
tariffs.
I'm not going to go down. Look, this is what I
asked
say
me-
you do. This is what you do.
If someone
what you
asked
do.
me if I supported a military operation, you'd have to tell me which military operation. Yes, I supported fighting the Nazis. No, I did not support the war in Iraq. Right? Like you would have to tell me which tariff.
Can we put this back on the roll track? I have responses.
Put back on the track, cut sleeve.
Yeah. So actual responses to the topic. To Maddie Cake's point, if this is she said this is a distraction for cover up from Trump. I mean, I have two responses for this. Like, one, this is not a distraction. This is not a cover up for Trump. I don't think anyone's saying because this thing came out of China, Trump, it altered somehow Trump's response to the COVID theory. No one's saying that, especially on this panel. But two, Trump's gone. mean, Biden's president now. I don't know why we're still talking about Trump, but here's why it matters. It's not a distraction. People are actually getting censored on YouTube, on social media for having these views. I mean, it's real. And then Mr. Geek says that there's no evidence. Well, there's plenty of evidence, right? 18 scientists has already said, these scientists come from Washington, Yale, Ivy League schools. Like, these scientists have already, and it's been fact-checked by the Washington Post and backed by Fauci, that there are potential causes for the weaponization of coronavirus, right? It's called, I forgot what it's called when you weaponize a virus, but China did this already with COVID. They did it with COVID-1. So it's not a stretch to say that they would do it.
Gain of function.
The word is
Wait, here's the question though. Who gains more from the coronavirus crisis? Is it China, which was already flourishing beforehand, or is it the American liberal deep
No,
state?
it's big corp. It's big corp.
That's what I think too. I think it's the American deep state and big corporations who had the most to gain from this virus because they're the ones who feel that they need to change America and society as extremely as they do, whereas China has been flourishing and China didn't need this virus. China handled the virus in its own way.
Even if I agree that's the case, it doesn't mean that like that's a reason, a motive, or that's.
No, I agree, but I just wonder why are people not paying attention to what happened at Fort Detrick? Why has this not been investigated?
Fort Detrick, yeah.
Fort Detrick,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah, New Jersey.
Yeah, so like you point out, the deep state and the corporatists, right? So like, I'm with you. They all support communism. Right?
This is where
right. So this is where like we end up into that double
I would have to
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Look at Maddie, look at Frenchie, look at all four of them. Look at it. That was beautiful. That was beautiful, CTV. All four of them were like, no.
All right, CTV finished and has to respond.
I mean, that right there is the point, right? It's like they all support communism. That's what they're on about, right? So they're like, when you come in
right now.
and you start the conversation with like, hey, I'm a communist, and then you point like at the very ideology that they support and they are attempting to prop up, and not just in one area, but in multiple areas, then like it becomes obvious that that side needs to have some type of muzzle put on it, because what needs to happen is people need to get back to the ideas of freedom and, open entrepreneurship, right? Instead of this, we're going to nationalize everything, and then by way of nationalization, we're going to undercut all of the small business owners that actually keep this country running, and that's what makes us inherently different than anywhere else in the world.
Well, okay, so there is a grain of truth in what you say that they support communism, because we can record from history that many of the Trotskyists who fled the Soviet Union ended up in pretty after they were ex-Trotskyists, basically ended up in pretty powerful positions in the American government and in American intelligence and so on. So I kind of understand that, but the issue is that whether they are secretly communists or not is irrelevant. They have always been enemies of the actual communist states in the world, and they have been responsible for deceiving the American people about the nature of the Soviet Union and today's China. And we can very clearly see that the deep state, they are unanimous in beating the drums of war, in demonizing and spreading lies about China. The Biden administration is an even more aggressive enemy of China than even Trump was. Trump met with Xi, and Trump's goal, basically, don't support Trump, I don't like Trump, but his kind of shtick was, well, we want to help American manufacturing and we want to give the American worker some jobs back. From the Chinese perspective, they didn't really have a big issue with this. That's why in China, they used to call Trump Comrade Trump, because the Chinese hate the liberals more than they hate Trump, because the Chinese appreciate how Trump wanted to focus on America instead of waging a global crusade against all these foreign countries, China included. The Chinese want what's best for China, and if Americans want what's best for America, I think this would be good for America-China relations, because they would understand that. And regarding entrepreneurship in this issue of nationalism, I know we're veering off topic, but I agree with you. Entrepreneurship is a great thing. There's a very huge, flourishing entrepreneurship that exists in China today. So I think there's a information barrier, and I think one should have an open mind and investigate more. That many of these views are just misconceptions promoted by the very same corporate deep state.
Yeah, but it just seems like all you'd be doing is trading one corporate slash deep state, right? With giving that deep state complete authoritarian control in order to achieve a utopia that, quite frankly, is not achievable. And this is evidenced by China's their military actions against Taiwan. Every year they go out and conduct
but this would be
exercises of
like
force against Taiwan.
right, but this would be
when
like
all
if
Taiwan
Florida
really wants to do is to be
but
left alone.
we
right?
waged
so
the
then,
civil but we
whenever
waged
there's a
yeah
regime
yeah
that
but we waged the
exercises
Civil
military
War
force in
when
that
the
way,
South seceded. We
it
waged
becomes
the Civil
questionable from the
War.
start, you know what I'm saying?
One at a time. One at a time.
Taiwan has always been part of China, so this would be like if the South seceded
No.
from
It hasn't.
America.
No,
the
it
Union.
hasn't.
Taiwan
Yes,
is
it
the
has.
only legitimate China.
For many centuries, it was part of China. It was the British, and it was colonial interventions, and then it was the Chinese. Even the
Actually, it wasn't. It was a big political movement that happened inside of China. and they all
this
got
Chinese
kicked out
Civil
to the
War. You're
Taiwan
right, but
Islands,
both sides agreed. There's only one China, and Taiwan's a part of that China. They just disagreed about who rules that.
So
That
then
was
you
the
wouldn't have a
disagreement.
problem with Taiwan being the only legitimate recognized government of China, then, right?
If they can win the
They-
support of the
they-
Chinese people, sure, but they haven't. Majority of the Chinese people are for the People's Republic of China government.
So your solution then to the people in Hong Kong would be what exactly?
The Chinese government is accommodating toward the political wishes of them to govern how they want, but they cannot secede and allow themselves to be a military base for foreign countries to be against China. If they want to have their political system and their policies, China doesn't care. As long as you don't try and secede and say that this is not part of the Chinese nation.
I could go off. I really don't want to deviate from the question. Should we go back to the Wuhan? I can talk about like
Yes,
Taiwan
please.
and Hong Kong.
We
but-
can.
Several people
I
had
mean,
their hands up.
yeah, Redneck and Spark are raring to go.
Come on.
Let them answer,
Oh,
and
well,
we
then I
can
guess
go.
we're talking about Wuhan and
I would-
we're talking
I mean-
about Hong Kong. That's a new topic. Got it.
Go ahead, Spark.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
ahead, Spark.
So first of all, when it comes down to it, Hans, Hans, am I saying your name
It's
right, sir?
Haas.
Haas. Okay. During Haas's opening statement, he decided that he wanted to actually implicate the United States military with the creation of the coronavirus. I need a sauce on that. I'm sorry. Just a little tweet from Xi Jinping is not going to be enough. We all know that it originated in China. That is why there was such a brilliant campaign to ensure that anyone who called it the Wuhan virus, the Chinese virus, the Wu flu, or anything like that, they got put back in their place. To actually claim that the United States military would actually do something knowingly that could possibly get out and actually harm the American people itself is ludicrous at best, and personally quite offensive. But that's okay, man. I get it. When your actual wanted governmental structure actually takes people out in the shadows and caps them in the back of the head, I guess all governments.
The U.S. government is on record doing that many times in history. I'm not saying military people did this.
Not against
but
their citizens normally.
yes,
the
they
only time
have.
that we actually
They certainly have against their own
when,
citizens.
because-
Yes, they have.
Because the only time was during the Obama administration is
I mean,
when they
Muskegee,
knowingly
Muskegee.
bombed.
Fuck.
Oh yeah,
I think you
Muskegee
should
was messed
research
up,
the
don't
history
get
of
me
the
wrong.
20th century. The U.S. government, the high-level intelligence organizations, had no regard for the sanctity of American citizens' lives. Many times they did take, as ad verbatim, taking people from the shadows and capping them. It's been happened many times.
I
the
mean,
American
but
government.
to sit there and say it was the military, I'm gonna
Well,
need some
it's
sources
not
on that one,
military.
brother, I'm just telling you.
Military people would never do this, but at high levels of intelligence, where there's a disconnect from the military rank and file in most military people, yeah, I think it's very plausible. I mean, don't you think that there is a deep state that
Oh no,
colludes
no,
with
there
corporate
is.
America?
I used to work. I used to work for it and with it because I worked in the IC for quite a while.
Yeah.
That's part of my military experience. But when it comes down to it, most of those people, I will qualify that, generally has the best for the American people, and they do things for the American people, not for the deep state itself, but for the American people. That's another topic altogether. The idea that lab leak not being considered an actual thing, and for it to have been censored as roughly as it has for the past year or so, actually gains it more legitimacy because people tend to shut down the speech they fear the most. And that's really
you shut this down because this is dangerous.
No, I agree. I actually agree. I'm against shutting down speech. So I agree with you. I'm against shutting down speech, but I have an open, honest question. If it originated in Wuhan, why did we find traces? Why is there so much mystery around why is there so much evidence that the virus actually was circulating in places outside of China?
Gain of function was being done in Fort Detrick and in Wuhan under the NIH funding.
But the Wuhan lab, hold on, this needs to be stated. The Wuhan lab in China was visited by American scientists connected to the Winnipeg lab in Canada multiple times in 2018 and 2019. So how do we know that they weren't doing something undercover in Wuhan without the Chinese?
We know where it showed up first.
All right, we have completely went into speculation though, and everybody would have to admit that this is just complete speculation. Could there be an investigation? Sure. Has there been an investigation? No. What would we find? We have no clue. And so I just want to make sure that nobody in here is going to make any conclusions based on pure speculation. It's the same thing when it comes to the Wuhan lab. I personally want to ask where I think it came from. I tell you, honestly, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. All evidence from what I've seen, it says that it looks like it originated in China. Where it originated in China, whether it was naturally occurring or developed in a lab, I will just respect whatever the majority of scientists point to, because they're the studies professionals on the issue. For the longest time, we've been sticking with the natural occurring story for a while, and it seems that recently the lab leak has got more attention. I just want to make sure that we don't go off into, well, let's do an investigation here. We saw some weird stuff here, so let's make conclusions based off that, or let's make or this says this theory, the lab leak theory, it seems to have given a little bit much respectability. So now that it has a tiny bit more, a crumb more of respectability, now that's what happened. That is what happened. I know it. I've always believed it. This is ridiculous. Okay?
All right,
none of us on this panel are studied medical experts, and so we should go with the medical consensus. And just a quick deviation, when it comes to Taiwan, it is simple for me that I believe that a government gets its consent from the governed, and the majority of people in Taiwan want to be its own separate project, separate governmental project from the mainland, then I believe it should have that right to be so. It is.
What about the South's right to secede from the Union during the Civil War?
For fuck's sake!
Well, actually, I'll bring that up right now. Let me be consistent. I believe that peoples have rights to secede. If tomorrow Californians got
the South had no rights.
Let me finish. Let me finish. If California tomorrow they voted and they said we don't want to be part of the United States, I would say fine. Now, I believe there are certain things that you could secede for which are completely immoral reasons to perpetuate certain systems that are so oppressive, so horrible, that I don't believe that is.
Why is your morality superior to the Chinese morality? Who's going to decide what's moral and what's not moral to secede for?
All right, can I just say, look, I think this is super interesting, but we only have 30 minutes, and I think we should probably try to stay on one topic. All right, so I want to throw it to Redneck, because I know Redneck's been raring to go, and then Geek, and then Cut Sleeve.
Maddie, get more tinfoil. Bottom line is this: if any of you guys have served, I would love for Dylan's research people to actually, go into Reddit, into the non-lefty areas, and actually just look at the military ones. Don't even look at the right or left. Go into the military. Go in there and look at what those
fucking Reddit.
I'm telling you, I'm making a fucking joke. Just listen and be quiet. Put your mic on mute for a minute and just hush. You guys seem to always look for these. We need to follow science because a majority of scientists are saying this. Yet 5 years ago, majorities of scientists were saying that transgenderism was a mental disorder. You don't want that shit to come back, do you? Let's go past that one. Fucking scientists get paid. They get paid by corporations to come up with things that the corporation needs, that the corporation wants out of its society. 93 out of 100 will say COVID is a fucking it's natural in order. So if that's the case, what are they doing to fix it? What can they do to fix it? All they can do is study it. That means that all these lockdowns against our personal freedoms were based off of what? a way to create a communistic regime, take away our civil liberties out of fear, make everybody wear a mask. I've sat on panels with you, Dylan, and a prime case, and about a fuck ton others, bitching at me about no vaccine and no mask. Fuck y'all, I'm still that way. And I still believe that every bit of the COVID, I believe every bit of this COVID Wuhan thing was man-made. It was leaked. I believe our NIH had something to do with it. I do believe they were doing gain of function in a military capacity. If you want to be altruistic and say, oh, they were only trying to learn how to combat these viruses every year because they come out of Southeast Asia every year, then I'll go with you on that one, but it still came out of Southeast Asia.
So to add to his point,
wait, I've got to be super strict about this. I've got to be super strict about this. We go Geek and then cut sleeve, and then we can go to Haas and Dylan. That's the only way this can work at this point. So Geek.
All right. First of all, thank you for showing that you don't understand how science works at all. Science doesn't work by the majority thinks that, therefore it happens. There's a process called peer review in which basically you send your data to other scientists who are going to review it.
Yeah,
and
just
if
like
they
newspaper
reach,
review.
if they reach the same
Sure.
conclusion.
Keep swallowing. You're sucking good.
Geek has the
Okay,
floor.
you know better than all scientists. That's what I. Second thing. Okay. Second thing. Everything that I've heard so far in favor, or like trying to push the lab leak or man-made theory, is literally the god of the gap. It's literally, oh, okay, so what about like this event that happened? I don't know. Okay, but what about this event? And like you're crafting this, like you're putting fact together, basically, or putting stories together to craft like a narrative that at the end doesn't matter. The only thing that
why are they trying to keep us from saying
the
it?
only thing that you need to look for the virus is the virus. You look at its structure, you look at the backbone, you see if it was modified or not, and that's how you can determine. And so far, all the scientists who have done this find no evidence that it was modified by man.
Okay, cut sleeve, please go.
Yeah, so Geek is right in a sense. There's no evidence about the specific virus. But that's for two reasons. One is because China won't tell us, right? And then that's a core question. So although
it's not if they tell you, you can see it on the virus.
Again, because even if that there's no evidence about the virus, there's evidence outside of the virus that makes the circumstances likely that China has like
it doesn't.
Yes. Okay. So if Jimmy steals from, say you have a cookie jar of 4, and he's stolen 3 in the past month. So January, he steals a cookie. February, he steals a cookie. The third month comes, I forgot what it was. He steals a cookie. When April comes around, we found the cookie. There's nothing about the cookie that suggests that Jim has stolen it, right? Because just analyzing the cookie, you won't get any evidence from it. We have to analyze the circumstances around the cookie.
That's not an apt comparison. If you want a comparison, it's like if all of your cookies are missing and one day your bike is missing. That's literally what you're doing. Unless you can show me a history of virus being like leaked like that.
COVID, no. First COVID.
That's not how it works.
That was weaponized by China, and all conservatives are saying is that might have happened with this virus. Like it's literally a one-on-one analogous to the cookie situation because China has done this with COVID before. That's a proven fact.
Where? Show me. I want to see data for this proven fact.
They have weaponized COVID-1. What was it called? I keep forgetting the name. What was it? Someone help me out. When you like weaponize a virus by like evolving it rapidly.
I'm going to say it so sorry it didn't happen. I'm sorry. I'm done with the bullshit. Like so many like.
Yeah, but you already said that, so let's move on.
Without like any link provided. So I'm done with this shit.
They have gain of function.
Hang on. What gives you the fucking moral authority to go, I'm fucking done with this. You guys are all, you're crazy. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's
I'm
be
asking you to backing up your claims.
Hang on. I'm going to ask you one question. Okay, fuck it all. It's natural. Geek. It's natural. What the fuck can a government do to fix it when it happened? Tell me one thing that the government has done that would have prevented it from fucking spreading.
No, I go next.
I'm asking Geek.
I go next.
I'm asking Geek.
All right, Dylan's next after that.
Geek.
Geek,
No,
if
come
Geek
on,
doesn't
Geek.
want to respond.
I just one question.
The same shit.
He doesn't want to
they would
respect.
do
He has
if
no
it was
fucking answer.
weaponized.
He has no fucking answer.
I just answered.
Because nobody has an answer.
Oh wait,
holy
Geek.
All right,
fuck!
if I could just back up something. Sorry, your name is Redneck. If I could back up something you said, I think people miss this. This is an important point. So if you're saying trust the scientific consensus, let me ask you a question. There was a time about 100 years ago in which the scientific consensus in America was eugenics, scientific racism, all of that stuff, and there were people who rejected that despite what the scientists were saying. So I don't think scientists are gods, and you have to listen to
Yeah,
whatever
Planned
they
Parenthood.
No,
and you have to
eugenics
listen
people.
and you have to listen to whatever they say without any criticism. I think people should be thinking critically,
If they
thinking
could-
independently.
Look,
Do
if
not
science gets
do not
new-
blindly trust institutions. Second of all, this whole thing about how it could have been handled, I actually don't think it was Trump's fault. I think it was just America in general was even if we had a liberal president, we still would have seen all of the same problems. Maybe Trump made it worse. I can concede to that. But ultimately, America was not prepared for this virus. The nature of our society makes it so that we just cannot coordinate and organize at like the level of South Korea or these Asian countries or whatever, where we can just kind of have this social cohesion to be able to respond to viruses and have harmonious lockdown. It's just I think politicizing it was a little bit dumb in my view. So that's my.
Thank you, Dylan.
All
Dylan,
right,
then
two
Katsune.
things.
Thank you.
Wait, Dylan. It's Dylan's time to go. Okay, sorry.
Okay. So my answer, if like, what could we have done? Well, Trump was in for 1 year. Actually, for a few years, 3
No,
years.
that's not what I
And
asked.
well, let me
No,
finish.
I asked
Let me.
at the moment.
Let me. I'm
He's
not.
answering your
moment.
question, so you get to listen.
Thank you, Rita Repulsa. I mean, Maddie.
A good thing that we could have done was restock PPE. That would have made that a lot of medical facilities were more prepared for what was coming. The stuff like, for example, his travel ban from China was pointless. His travel bans, period, were pointless. And the reason why is if you do travel bans and then you don't use the time that you're gonna buy by enacting those travel bans to actually like stock up and get people ready, then all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. And that's what the United States did. We delayed the inevitable. We didn't restock on PPE. We didn't have a medical infrastructure that was completely prepared. We experimented.
Inevitable
with a
for
form
what,
of,
Dylan?
It was inevitable in a lot of ways that we would fail if you don't use that time. If we don't use time that we buy by doing travel bans to stock up and get prepared, then it's inevitable that those travel bans end up being pointless.
Dylan, what country prevented deaths from COVID?
Well,
What country?
nobody is assessing that. Nobody is
Would you like to
stating
know-
that there was going to be no deaths. We could have reduced the deaths by taking better policies.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
there's no. We don't.
Yeah.
You think that there
Like,
was no
if
matter
there's
what,
literally
there
all
was
the
nothing we
examples.
could have done.
I
So-
believe
Australia, New
everything.
Zealand,
There was
I believe
nothing we
Canada,
could
everything
have
that we've
done.
done.
Taiwan,
All right,
South
all right,
Everything
Korea,
we've done.
North
I
Korea.
believe.
Wait.
I believe.
Everyone's
Okay.
talking at the same time. That
It's-
means it's
P-
important.
Okay, PPE is one thing we could have done. That is something that could have been really good if we had that stocked up beforehand. Another thing we
Proven
could have
not to
done
work.
is have it. What? Wait, what? That's just completely. What are you talking about? How is PPE
actually does
proven
work,
not to
though.
work?
That's why
They said that
surgeons wear it.
there's
when
been
they're
scientists that said
doing surgery.
PPE
that it doesn't
doesn't
prevent
work.
COVID from.
People still
They
died
said
of
it do
COVID.
prevent-
You can't. No. Source that. Source that PPE has no medical effectiveness.
Wait, Dylan. Hold on. Wait, I have a question for Dylan. I have a question for Dylan. How come?
Reject
Stop it.
PPE.
Stop it. You
That's
are
fucking
grown-ass
ridiculous.
adult.
That's like
Stop
rejecting
it.
vaccines.
Thank you. Please.
That's not what I
Okay.
said.
All right, wait, deep breath. Okay.
Did
Cut
you
sleep
just
is
say
in
we're
re-
adults?
I thought, yeah, I did. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. All right, cut sleep, please go.
Okay.
You had your hand up for a while.
So as the adult in the room, I'm joking, but specifically to the point, Mr. Geck, right? So the word I was looking for was gang infection test.
Okay.
That's basically weaponizing the virus, evolving it quickly, evolving it, irregularly to see to test the limits of the virus. China did it with COVID-1, and that's a fact. And another fact is that to take into consideration is that China has made a lot of this information privatized. They have disclosed almost nothing to other foreign countries. Those are two facts. So what you have is a country who doesn't share any information and has done the same thing that we're claiming has evidence to do in the past, right? They've done the same thing. So my question to you is like, if this thing is completely debunked, why is Fauci now getting into it? Why is the Washington Post co-signing articles with verified scientists saying that this theory could be plausible? Like, why are these scientists like getting into it?
All right, Geek, please
That was a
respond.
question for
All
you.
right. First of all, Since you provided no evidence, I'm not required to. So that's the fact that all of what you say is bullshit. That's it. Until I see evidence for what you just say, like the idea that COVID was like weaponized in the first place, I don't care about that. I'm not going to address it. I just wanted to address two things. One thing, mostly. Science is the only tool we have to measure reality.
Bullshit.
That's it.
Not true.
Oh,
I don't want to go into the philosophy of science, please.
okay.
Because I actually know about that.
And science
Like,
evolve.
when I see people
That's
like
it. We
Gek
get
talk
new
about
data
this and they
every
don't know
day.
the philosophy of science, it's kind of
We
pathetic.
get new data every day. I'm sorry, I'm speaking.
Bruh,
We get new data every day.
you're
And
out of
that's
your
why
depth.
Science, like, yeah, if you
Alright.
want.
But wait,
That's
you're
why
not
you
answering.
get. We don't have like this.
Wait, Dick, you're not answering my question. My question is like, why are these scientists like co-signing on the theory if it's just completely debunked?
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You've provided no link so far, so I don't care.
Okay, let's just go in a loop. Let's go to Maddie, then Sparky.
Yeah, so first of all, I made this hat because I'm giving this like discussion the seriousness it deserves. We're all lizard people, Tupac is alive, etc., etc. But what I came here to say is this. I actually, in my chat right now, I have a scientist who studies viruses, and like he's been fucking mauling over people's interpretation of the coronavirus and why it supposedly came from the lab.
Then bring him on. Then bring him on. Bring him on.
Spoken.
I bet I know that
this
bitch's
entire
name.
fucking time. I've not spoken on this entire fucking topic, so you can sit there and let me fucking finish. I made a fucking hat waiting. So here's the thing. Like, I feel like I did cuckoo banana pants in here. People talking about like conspiracies and this. Here's the thing. We talked about, oh, well, it was proven that China released COVID-1. I believe you're referring to the one that happened in 2003, that over a 14-year investigation was proven false, that it was from nature. It wasn't from China releasing it like maliciously. So like we can just toss that out the fucking window. And second of all, like the notion that like, oh, but there's this big conspiracy and like it's the corporate cabal. It is cuckoo banana pants. And like the fact that everyone here is like echo chambering, being like, yes, no, that's I too have done my research into this. It's like, have you done your research? Because like, and then the whole thing about science where it's like, oh, well, science used to believe this, science used to believe this. Yeah, so here's the whole thing about the scientific method and how we approach it is that like science comes up with hypotheses that they then test and they look for correlations that then would provide some sort of path forward for how to treat things. And that's why we've been able to make the advances that we have, which is why scientific consensus, especially when it's based in peer-reviewed studied
eugenics,
like that, there's a reason for that. Okay, listen, again, I'm not fucking finished. Thank you. Okay, I can also scream fucking random.
Yeah, you're on the
words,
list.
Let me fucking finish. Yeah, and so I don't know. It's just so fucking stupid. And you want to ask, well, how can we prevent deaths from COVID? Want to know what countries had the lowest death rate, the lowest infection rate, the lowest? No, shut the fuck up. I'm not done. Just focus on the road while I'm doing this, and then you don't have to listen to me
Answer
ever
the right
again.
fucking question.
And then you don't have to listen. Then you have to listen to me
all right.
ever again.
Let Maddie wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay, listen. So, like, I want to talk about, okay, well, what would be a good approach to prevent deaths? There are so many examples of other countries that did a much better job than the United States of preventing infection and preventing spread, isolating the virus, and then preventing hospitalizations and deaths. Countries like New Zealand, like Australia, like Canada, like Taiwan, like South Korea, like Japan, like Vietnam. There's literally fucking examples.
You mean third world countries that use hydroxychloroquine and other drugs that we weren't allowed to?
I didn't realize South Korea, Japan, and Australia were third world countries, but that's so fascinating. I'll be sure to let them know in my next fucking newsletter.
I said like those other third world countries.
This is not a question and answer session. This is not a question and answer
session. Pick one out of the
this
three.
Is me weighing in. This is me fucking weighing in, my dude. So listen, like, again, this is so fucking stupid. We might as well be debating the likelihood that our president is actually a lizard person coming in from the center of the earth to take over and sell the earth to Mars. So that's what I think. And this is so stupid. And I'm flabbergasted. Also, I'm good at art.
You still wear a mask? I bet you still wear a mask, don't you?
We will go to Aircraft Sparky, who will hopefully respond to the cuckoo banana pants argument, then to Dylan.
Well, what about me? Because I got to respond to that.
And then Haas after, sorry.
Best hat on the stream, Maddie. Love it. Look, the cuckoo banana pants part. Look, everyone has
That's
their
all
own
I wanted
opinions.
to hear. Thank you.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, look, my whole theory on it is I'm not saying it did happen in the lab. I'm saying it is quite possible. It does make sense. Mistakes happen. Look, I'm not saying it was done out of any type of maliciousness. I will never go through the point of claiming something is weaponized without proof. The way you weaponize a virus takes a lot of drying, takes a lot of, that's difficult to do. It is not something that is easy. This isn't like your great granddaddy's biological weaponry where we just put some scabs and some blankets and handed it to some people. Look, the way warfare is and everything, I really hate the idea of anyone suggesting that it was possibly weaponized. I believe that this was out of sheer incompetence. I don't know if it occurred naturally. There are scientists that will claim that for it to have evolved as fast as it has, it would be statistically impossible in a natural scenario. However, there's others that contradict this. Look, science is not done by, the majority of scientists agree with this. Look, in the 50s, there was doctors who was actually saying smoking was good for Christ's sakes. So please stop worshiping at the idol of my daddy science. Use a little bit of common sense. Use a little bit of historical reference to see what is actually going on. And look, make up the mind for yourself. It's not my job to tell you how to think. I'm just here to tell my opinion. And Geek, every time when someone's asked me for some sources, I've been putting them up in the chat, up in the speakeasy. So look, at least I've been trying to provide some stuff. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this is frustrating. Look, at least come legitimate. At least come with your honest to God beliefs. And look, I've only worn a mask when it was required by my job, but I did do things like, I don't know, avoid people, stuff like that, just because it does make sense. Wearing masks does work in tight spaces to a point. Okay, it's all about limiting spittle and that kind of stuff. To say that they completely do not work, that's inaccurate at best.
Nobody said that.
Thank you. No, you did not say that, but it was the way it was worded could be taken that way. Got to be precise, right?
Thank you. Okay.
I tried to be precise, but they run with it.
Thank you, Rennick. We're nearly out of time. Would everybody be cool just doing closing statements and putting your final thoughts in those?
Yeah, but I have 5 points that I'll put in my closing statement.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll start with Haz.
Okay. First point. Calling something crazy is not an argument. Second of all, I don't think anyone's interested in the scientist chatter. They're not on the panel, so their opinion doesn't matter. Scientific institutions have never been uncritically accepted by the brilliant contributors and innovators in science. If they just accepted consensus, there would have never been any actual real progress in science. Don't act like the consensus model of scientific truth is God's spoken word, because you clearly know nothing about the philosophy of science. It's a very controversial viewpoint. It by no means is some kind of religious truth. Fourth, scientists don't have a monopoly on talking about the origins of COVID, because the motivations and operational capabilities of deep state actors, etc., is outside the realm of virology. Okay, so we're not even talking about viruses and the nature of viruses. We're talking about something that's outside of the scope of so-called scientific experts. And the notion that individuals can't criticize institutional narratives is actually extremely dangerous. It promotes institutional stagnation and allows those in power to have zero accountability in the name of hiding behind scientific experts. We just have to listen to the experts, right? Fifth, why were there so many mixed messages about masks and lockdowns in the beginning stages of the virus's outbreak by Fauci and those in power? They were demonizing China for wearing masks and having lockdowns, but suddenly America in an emergency situation had to adopt it themselves. So why should the American people trust these experts when the first thing they did was demonize China for the preventative measures China was doing? And China's a dystopian, horrible, Orwellian state. That's what the people in power, the liberals, were saying who were against Trump. So I think both sides of the political aisle, deserve blame for how COVID was handled in America. And I think talking about New Zealand and Australia and wherever else is completely irrelevant, because those are different societies. And also they're islands, okay? But if that doesn't matter, they're completely different societies than American society. So politicizing it in the first place is a complete waste of time. That's my closing statement. That's all.
Yeah, but also...
closing statements. Also, if you want to shout, this is like the final thing. So if you want to shout yourself, your channel, and all that stuff out too, you can.
Twitch.tv/infrared show.
Thank you. Let's go to Dylan.
So I want to say that a majority of the last 30, 40 minutes has just been science is a liar sometimes. It's a bitch, right? It's no different than the Always Sunny skit. It's the same argument. No one is arguing that, oh, scientists said it, therefore just accept it simply at that point. When I thought this was implied with it, that it also came with peer review. For example, Infrared brought up the fact of, well, what about eugenics? That was considered scientific consensus for a good period of time. That is true. But then, when the 1935 peer review panel by the Carnegie Institution and concluded that the Eugenic Research Office was basically doing nothing of merit, 4 years later, it lost all of its funding. After the peer review and the critical analysis from other great minds in science, that's when eugenics started to meet the wayside. Eugenics was proven to be an irreputable side of science that had no backing, and after peer review came out, after they analyzed the facts, that's when eugenics fell to the wayside. Infrared can like doubt and laugh. I don't know, maybe Infrared is eugenics.
Well, I can't respond because it's closing statements, so it is what it is.
Well, then why are you talking?
Do I have to be here? Are we done? Can I just leave?
What?
Yeah, I'll just leave.
Oh, you can act like a little bitch if you want, but it's closing statements.
Thanks for coming.
Well, yeah. I don't gotta listen to you guys. When I can't respond.
Oh, you're right. So you're just gonna just read from an article without posting the article.
all right,
I will debate for more hours. I'm willing to debate more about it. So don't call me a fucking pussy. They want to end the fucking show. I'm willing to debate more.
You're the one interrupting during closing statements. You can.
Because he was fucking addressing my facial expressions. Oh, I can't make facial expressions.
That's the point we're at. Sorry.
Anyway,
Please continue, Dylan.
eugenics was shown
Bitch.